Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. We do have quorum. Can I have everybody take their seats, please? We are about to begin the meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody to the resumption of the 39th Budget Committee meeting, and welcome all members of the committee and public. As usual, you can watch us on YouTube at Toronto City Council Live, or you can go onto your tablet or smartphone at toronto.ca/council. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. Just want to go over what we have done and what we'll be doing over the next couple of days. We have been listening to presentations from the city's divisions and agencies. We went through Cluster A on Tuesday. Today, and public health also. Today we're going to be hearing from the 4 accountability offices, the TTC, and Cluster B. Details of the division agencies' budgets, we have the preliminary budget notes that are online, and there's also copies of the budget notes presentations that they'll be giving to us today. Now, I've asked, as in years past, some divisions will have presentations, others won't, and there'll just be questions. I think today we'll have a presentation on Cluster B and also on TTC. At the end of today's presentations and questions, we're going to reconvene tomorrow morning, and then we'll have one more meeting on Monday to finish up all of the presentations. Also want to remind everyone, or councillors, that if you have any budget briefing note motions that you want to table, please get it into the clerk as soon as possible, and give the clerk permission to share those with myself and staff. We will be gathering all of those up and moving probably just one motion on all of those briefing notes on Monday at the end of the meeting. But it would be good if we could have them, as in years past, have the budget request or the briefing note request into us so we can review them. Today is going to be we have the sheets here of the order. TTC, we're actually going to have TTC go up first. Andy Byford has some timing challenges. So I felt it was appropriate that we have them come up first to do their presentation and ask questions. And after that, we'll go to the accountability offices and then to Cluster B. Any questions on the order or anything on where we're at today? Seeing none, why don't we begin with TTC? I know you're very busy these days, Mr. Byford. You got a big day tomorrow, as I understand, and thank you for coming. And
thank you. Good morning.
Leave it to you.
Yes, the small matter of a subway official opening tomorrow, revenue service on Sunday. So hope to see as many of you as possible on Sunday for the official opening. 6 beautiful new stations, the culmination of literally years of hard work. So we're very proud of it. And councillors, I did give the chair, the budget chief, my apologies. I must leave, unfortunately, by 10:15. But my colleagues will still be here if you've still got any outstanding questions at that stage. So I might start, Mr. Budget Chief, just with some quick intros. I think you know my colleagues anyway. To my left here is Stephen Conforti, who's the head of Finance and Treasurer for the TTC. To Steve's left is our CFO, Tara Bowell. We've also got somewhere, although he's disappeared, Rick Leary. He's coming, he's here somewhere. Rick Leary is the incoming interim CEO who will take over from me on the 23rd of this month when I finish, my last day being the 22nd. So the official opening is tomorrow, invite only, budget, politicians and media. Then there's an open house on Saturday afternoon at Finch West, and then the public opening is on Sunday. Okay, so the TYSSE opens to the public on Sunday. So Rick's somewhere. I think he just had to go and talk to the Mayor's office. And then we've got Alex over there and Jennifer from our finance team as well. And I'd just like to say first up, Mr. Budget Chief, it's their hard work that's put together this budget. It is a big task to do the TTC's budget every year. This was especially challenging because we had a number of constraints facing us. So this is a budget for CapEx and OpEx that I believe meets the city manager's instructions and your instructions as Budget Chief. We'll deal with OPEX first, then we'll come on to CAPEX. With OPEX, we're delivering a budget that if you took out the impact of previous years or prior years' decisions, such as opening the TYSSE, which obviously comes at a cost with 6 more stations, such as prior year decisions around the collective bargaining agreement and the introduction of Presto, this budget would actually be 14 million less than last year. So I think that's a key point. We've also worked really hard on headcount. Obviously, headcount needs to go up for staffing 6 new stations, but actually we've been very thrifty on headcount, and I think you'll be pleased with what you see within the document. So the actual subsidy ask, if we draw on the State Fare Stabilization Reserve, is an additional $23 million, which I'd say is the best that we've ever achieved. But that said, we're being responsible. We maintain service levels. We have built a budget around what we believe to be the predicted ridership number. And don't forget, there's also no fare increase as an offset against some of our cost pressures. There's no fare increase for 2018. So those are the headlines. Here's Rick. Rick will be taking over as CEO from the 23rd. I think we're ready to go. We'll go through OPEX first. Thank you. Tara.
Thank you, Andy. Good morning, everyone. So we'll take you through, as Andy said, at a high level, the slide deck. I think it's close to 50 pages, and then leave ample time for questions afterwards. So our first slide just outlines for you the service delivered by both TTC Conventional as well as Wheel-Trans. So is this not working? Okay, sorry, just getting caught up here. We are, though, engaging with the city as part of the 2019 budget process to try to bring some simplifications to this busy chart. But for now, this outlines all of the key services delivered by our various areas. From a high level, the capital asset value to deliver the services that the TTC provides to the city, we decided to use insurable replacement value, which currently is at almost $16 billion. And to summarize that, $5.2 billion relates to revenue vehicles, $175 million relates to service equipment for rail and non-revenue vehicles, and then $5.4 for stations and buildings, and then $5 for tunnels, tracks, and structures. 2018, again, this is pretty busy. We've tried to simplify it as best as possible. It's our 2018 org chart, and it has our position count by our 7 groups. On the next page, we've then required to break down our organizational chart into a few categories: officials, management with direct reports, as well as management without direct reports, and then the union employees, which is obviously our biggest complement at 11,514. Our staffing trends for conventional, you'll see in prior years, it was largely the additions were added to accommodate for our ridership growth. In 2017, they were mainly driven by the opening of the TYSSE. And then for 2018, and we'll go into some more detail in later slides, you'll see there's a reduction of 120 operating positions as a result of various changes, which we'll take you through them. In 2019, the numbers again go up, mainly driven again to support TYSSE, ridership growth, the opening of the new bus garage, and then in 2020, that headcount position is reduced, partially due to one-person train operation, also known as Opto. You'll see that the Wheel-Trans position numbers have remained relatively static, both for 2018 and our early estimates for 19 and 20 as we continue to work out the optimal operation model between staff and contractors. From a vacancy perspective, where we are currently is we anticipate overall year-end vacancy rate of 1.9%. So in the last quarter, our group's been working hard to fill their various vacancies. And for operating, it's going to be 0.9 is the current estimates for operating positions. However, we continue to face challenges on the capital side to fill those vacancies just because of the skills that are required in those various positions. But we are looking at ongoing initiatives, including apprenticeship programs, to address those gaps. So our key service accomplishment, there's been many, and I know Andy spoke at our last board meeting on them. Just to name a few, obviously the TTC was named North America's Best Transit Agency for 2017, so that's top on the list. but equally as epic is the opening of our new TYSSE 6-station subway on officially, I guess, tomorrow. And also record customer satisfaction rating at a high of 82% in Q2 of 2017. Our operating budget variance as of October 31st, 2017. Year to date, we're at 77.2 million under. And the key drivers to that are listed here on the slide, including the stabilization no stabilization draw of $14 million. And then on TTC expense side, there's some good news stories there. We've had improved improved vehicle maintenance. So our vehicles are turning out to be a lot more reliable than we originally budgeted. And that resulted in a savings of $11 million. Employee benefits continue to trend significantly lower than budgeted at $10 million. And then we've had favorable energy price and consumption savings of $10 million. On the Wheel-Trans side, the underspend is mostly driven by a reduction in ridership compared to what was budgeted. So key issues and challenges for 2018 and beyond. For the current year budget, prior year decisions, as Andy was saying, as well as the legislative Bill 148 impact, accounts for $37 million of our pressures. And you'll see later on that ultimately we've been able to bring that down for a net additional subsidy ask of a little over $23.6 million. So essentially, we've cut a great deal out of our 2018 budget. But the challenges, obviously, are continuing to maintain service levels and accommodate the ridership demand. And we're also continuing to look to find predictable and sustainable long-term funding to support current operation and future growth. From a Wheel-Trans perspective, the main issue there is the AOTA legislative changes and implementation of the family of service model. And our challenges, again, are to continue to accommodate the increase in ridership growth demands. Our service objectives and key priority actions for the conventional system. Again, we've got ridership growth as being our key service objective first, followed closely by enhancing the customer experience as well as our financial sustainability. And the action items to address these are our ridership growth strategy, which is coming to our January board strategy meeting, complete our transition to Presto, and then continue with our various business modernization and transformation initiatives. From a Wheel-Trans perspective, the key service objectives there accommodate growing ridership demand, facilitate spontaneous trip making, and the actions to address those is the gradual rollout of the family of service model, and then we've increased Wheel-Trans dispatch and service support. The business modernization and transformation initiatives, everyone should be aware of these, but just to highlight them from a TTC conventional service perspective, we've got ATC, Octo, the new station model, the implementation of Presto, and then the Vision and SAP modernization initiatives. And with Wheel-Trans, it's our family of service model. So we'll get into the details of our operating budget, but we, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, I think the total in the end was we cut out close to $80 million out of our budget, and that does come obviously with risks, so we wanted to highlight this for the committee. We do feel, though, that the risk is acceptable in the circumstances and based on the trends that we've seen in 2017. Just to highlight the key ones, Presto adoption rates. So our 2018 budget has assumed a 45% average adoption rate throughout 2018. And obviously, if that adoption rate picks up and is accelerated, then there's going to be more transaction costs owing to Presto. The next item is the Bill 148. Right now, we've included just a minimal provision of $4.1 million. And that number was calculated based on the number of employees that took 2 emergency days unpaid in 2016. So then we assumed that those people were more likely than not to take them in 2018 now that they're paid. But just to give you the scope of the exposure based on available data that we have, the potential cost and productivity lost could be as high as $17.6 million. And again, we've shaved a lot out of our base budget, and there's obviously going to be potential pressure if the current trends do not continue into 2018. And some of the items of keynote are higher average fare. We've assumed 3.2 cents in our 2018 budget. We've assumed that there's going to be continued reduction in benefit claims. We looked at the non-labor budget line by line review and took out 11.2 million. And then we are assuming that the diesel consumption rates based on the new vehicles will continue to be lower at 3.7 million, and then reduced accident claim budget. So this slide just really highlights for the committee where the money goes. Over 92% goes to our TTC conventional service, with 8% going to Wheel-Trans. And where does the money come from? 64% from user fees, 36% from property taxes, excuse me, and a minor of a little bit less than 1% from transfers from capital. So from a high level, the 2018 preliminary operating budget, we're asking for an additional subsidy of 23.6 million. And just to highlight again, 37.5 million of it results from prior year decisions and legislative changes, as I've outlined on slides before, but 25.3 million is TYSSE. Presto is 8.2 million, and Bill 148, the minimum has been assumed there of 4.1. So all other items result in a net reduction of 14 million, again, without impacting service and with no fare increases.
And if I might just chime in there, Tara, if you don't mind.
Sure.
That's unheard of. We've really worked hard on this budget. That is unheard of, that we would produce a budget like that. So hopefully that resonates with the committee.
Thank you. So where are our key cost drivers? Again, you'll see at the top there, they're comprised of TYSSE and Presto. Some other items to note there are the CBA impact from prior year up to March, which is the end date of the current CBA, of 6.7 million. And then the other one to highlight in that table there is the $14 million reversal of stabilization reserve. And then we also want to highlight that in the initial budget that was submitted in June, there was 18.5 million in reductions included in the original submission, and the largest one being the retirement of the Orion bus fleet, which was an $11 million savings. So what actions did we take since the June submission? Because I should highlight on that last slide that the total base changes as of the initial submission was about $86 million was the cost drivers and pressures. And then since then, and the budget that was submitted to you, we identified a further 62.4 in reductions, efficiencies, and bridging strategies to reduce that pressure to $23.6 million. And the key items there, the first bucket relates to revised forecast and cost estimates. They totaled a reduction of 15.9 million. The next bucket were just expenditure reductions identified following the June 12th submission. They totaled 13.4 million. From our line-by-line review, there was further reductions of 15.6 million. And so that came to a total of base expenditure changes of reduction of $44.9 million. Then we had a couple of base revenue changes of 14.5 million. And then the last group is service efficiencies, mainly in our materials and procurement group of close to 3 million. So this is one of our slides that's been presented at all our previous budget meetings, and we thought it was helpful in terms of summarizing the remaining cost drivers. The first box being 37.6 million that's been discussed in previous slides. The next box really summarizes for you that $14 million. So essentially we found a net 51 million in reductions, which is equivalent to 7.4 of our 2% of our 2017 budget. And again, assumes no fare increases, and we're maintaining our service levels. From a position perspective, and this is also broken down in a later slide, we've taken out a net 12, or a decrease of net 12 positions, which represents 120 operating positions that were reduced, and that was offset by an increase of 108 temporary positions to support our capital delivery. The next slide is left blank because we've been asked not to increase or propose any increases to our fares. From a 2018 complement change, how do we come up with the net 12 reduction? The collectors reduced requirements for Presto, that's 51. The lower construction for service augmentation, this relates to the Eglinton Crosstown, and ultimately the amount of augmentation, bus augmentation service that was required is lower than what was initially anticipated. The alignment to 2017 service levels is mainly driven by the delays in streetcars, our new streetcars, low-floor streetcars, and obviously with the delays we didn't need as many operators. And then the last one was the TYSSEs, the 26 new positions, and then the 108, which is the temporary positions to support our capital delivery. So where are we for 2019 and 20? You'll see for 2019, the subsidy ask is $68.8 million. And if we look at the detail, the first item there is reversal of the stabilization reserve, because obviously that's a one-time funding for 2018 if it's taken. The next key driver is Presto fees, and that's assuming a full year of 100% adoption. The total fees payable to Presto will be $31.3 million. Then you've got your economic factors at $34.6 million, but with the full adoption of Presto, we will recognize savings of $13 million relating to the elimination of legacy fare media. And the other big driver there in 2019 is the projected, again, ridership increase as it relates to Wheel-Trans. In 2020, the net subsidy ask is $13.3 million, and the table starts off with a net savings relating to Opto of $12.4 million, but then that's going to be offset when we open up the new bus garage with estimated cost of $11.3 million. Economic factors for 2020 assumes $27.7 million, and then again we have $10.7 in the budget for increased Wheel-Trans ridership. And on the last slide, new and enhanced services not included in the budget. This is our time-based transfers. So just to remind everyone that the TTC board on November 28th approved the time-based transfers, but this is not currently in the city's preliminary 2018 operating budget. The net costs for 2018 are estimated $11.1 million, with a full cost of $20.9 million upon maturity and full implementation in 2020. And there was a question that was asked at the budget launch of Steve and I, and we didn't have the data with us. It was related to the honor system and the percentage cost to the TTC. So based on the last audit that we did in 2011, the percentage is at 2. You'll see in the papers today there was a study that was leaked that's claiming that percentage is at 4.4%. And currently, we've got executive has some concerns in terms of how the study was conducted as well as the methodology behind it. So, you know, our plans right now for the future is wait till Presto is fully implemented and we will conduct a full audit across all modes and use our fare inspectors as well as internal audit to validate how they're defining fare evasion and how they're coming up with their percentages and population.
So I might just add to that. I think it's important that you do understand, particularly with regard to what's in the media today. We can't say that fare evasion isn't higher than the last official figure we have, but we need to deal with facts. So this study is exactly that. It's a study. I have not actually personally seen the study yet, so I don't want to go around quoting figures until we're certain that they are statistically correct. We intend to do that further survey once we've got Presto fully in, which eliminates things like crash gates where gates are left open. We're also actively deploying our fare inspectors and being pretty robust actually in terms of fines given out, to the point that we receive quite a lot of complaints about the alleged lack of discretion by fare inspectors. So we're taking it very seriously. But with this study, the reason it hasn't been presented to our board yet is because it's exactly that. It's a study, it's in draft, so it's premature for us to adopt the findings of that study yet. I have some concerns with the way it was done.
Okay, and I'll take you through the capital program. So I'll move over to the next slide. So really the next two slides speak to some of the major projects that were completed in 2017. So I think we've mentioned it twice, and I'll mention it a third time. TYSSE is going to be officially opening tomorrow. with 6 stations going live and essentially in revenue service for December 17th. We've also procured 231 buses that have been delivered in 2017, as well as an additional 187 buses that have been commissioned. On Presto, we have 69 subway stations that are Presto enabled. Next slide. We've also added, or by year end, we'll have added 25 bicycle parking stations across different TTC stations, as well as some of the IT initiative. We have installed 200 passenger information displays that are going to provide real-time information on vehicle arrivals, as well as we have successfully launched Pension Go Live on SAP in November of 2017. We've also continued progress on Line 1 ATC resignaling.
Just FYI, when the subway opens on Sunday, that section is powered by automatic train control. It's the brand new signalling system. So from Shepherd West all the way up to Vaughan, those trains are driven automatically at the press of a button. There's still an operator on the front and a guard at the back, but that is the first phase of ATC, and that's a real achievement to have rolled that out so far. In the testing, it's gone flawlessly.
So in terms of our capital variance, we are projecting to year end to have spending just under $1.2 billion, which would represent just under 80% spend rate to year end. There are a couple of projects that are driving some of the underspending that we've experienced. The one being the delivery of some of our streetcars, which results in an underspend at year end of about $54 million, as well as some underspending that we have within our service planning to do with platform modifications as well as bus stop improvements. And that work will continue into 2018 and 2019. So the next slide we wanted to add, just to give you a bit of a glimpse of our capital program and the spend rates over the last few years. So the table on the top demonstrates what our final year-end spend rates have been since 2013, showing on average a spend of roughly 70%. We did want to extract from that table the impact of specific third-party fleet acquisitions and show what the spend rate was in terms of the capital program that we had direct control over. And you see that our spend rate was actually just below 80% on average over the last few years. On the capital program, in terms of some of the key issues and challenges that we continue to face, first and foremost would be that the capital program continues to have $2.7 billion shortfall in terms of funding for base capital requirements. There's also the need to continue to ensure that we're AODA compliant by the year 2025, as well as ensuring that we have capital delivery in place that we can deliver on our PTIF programs to maximize on the PTIF funding before the sundown clause on those funding requirements, as well as ensuring that we're positioned to be able to support transit expansion initiatives. In terms of some of the priority actions that we're taking to be able to address these issues, we're continuing the development of the Portfolio Management Office, including prioritization of funded and unfunded projects, as well as implementation of the stage gate approach. We're going to be there to help support the city in developing a financing strategy to begin to start chip away and addressing on the unfunded list, as well as we have monthly reviews both at the TTC and the city on the PTIF funding program, ensuring that we're monitoring our spend rates, we're looking at what our anticipated burn rates are, identifying where there's any projects that are at risk, and ensuring we have substitutes available if there's an opportunity to do so to ensure we're maximizing funding. As well as our 10-year capital program includes funding to support transit initiatives, first and foremost to complete and close out TYSSE, continue implementation of the Scarborough subway extension, as well as funding included for design work associated with the relief line, as well as some waterfront transit, specifically exhibition to Dufferin Gate Loop. So the next slide just identifies what some of our key projects are included in the 10-year capital plan, and just give you a bit of a view. This number here does include carry forward funding that was underspent in 17, anticipated to be brought forward into 18. And in total, over the 10-year capital program, we anticipate to spend just under $2 billion for vehicle requirements, which is roughly 30% of the program, as well as 70% of the program, or about $4.5 billion going towards infrastructure projects, with one of the most significant being completion of our Easier Access Phase 3 project at just under $500 million. So the next slide shows, in terms of the funded 10-year capital program, where the money goes as well as where the money comes from. I think what you'll see in our 10-year capital program, similar to many city programs, is the lion's share of our funding is directed towards SOGR work to make sure that our assets are maintained in a state of good repair. Some significant projects that you would see in there would be the replacement of aging vehicles, work on structures, electrical system, and another significant component would be track work. Some of the other categories that we would have would be service improvement at 3%. That's some of the buses that we'll bring in for use as part of our Run as Directed program, as well as station prioritization projects and station transformation work. On the growth-related projects at 5% or just under $300 million, we've got the land acquisition for the subway maintenance and storage facility, as well as completion of the McNichol bus garage. And then within the legislated component, the lion's share of that, again, is for easier access projects. In terms of where the funding comes from, you'll see the pies there that are shaded. So essentially in the blue is the funding that we're receiving predominantly from the city in terms of debt at $2.4 billion, as well as from the capital financing reserve at $264 million. We also get money from the federal government at just under $2 billion, predominantly coming from the federal gas tax at about $1.7 billion, but there's also money in there and for 2019, 18 and 19 for the completion of PTIF Phase 1. Provincial subsidy, just under $1 billion, is predominantly the gas tax. So I just want to preface, this is the table based on the board-approved budget and how it was funded. There are some differences between the 10-year capital plan that the city has, and I'll walk you through those really quickly just so we can essentially reconcile the two. The next slide is just demonstrating by year where our funding is directed between the city's categories of capital expenditures. Again, no different than the pie chart I showed you earlier. 82% of our program is directed towards SOGR, again, to ensure that our assets are kept in a state of good repair. The next slide speaks to our accumulated backlog for state of good repair. So what you're seeing is that it's growing from 2018 to 2027, where we're anticipating our backlog to be $427 million. What that is a product of some of the reviews that we did on our capacity to spend. We looked at where we had capital needs, but we weren't able to address it based on our ability to deliver to that level of spending, as well as where there was funding limitations. So we've identified projects that would be included in our capacity to spend list. Those are not needs that don't exist. Those needs do exist, but there's an issue in terms of our ability to actually spend to that level of requirement today, as well as funding capacity. And as a result, you're seeing that our SOGR backlog continues to grow until we're able to address both of those issues. The next slide is similar, but it's speaking to the different funding sources. So again, I want to note that this is the board, the TTC Commission approved funding sources, and I'll get into the difference. But there's $2.4 billion there, which is of debt, which is at city's debt target, as well as you'll see that there's a bit of an increase within the first 2 years, both in provincial and federal funding. On the federal funding, that's associated with the PTIF funding that we have today, and on the provincial, that's associated with some of the LRV funding agreements that we have that will expire upon completion of those orders. So the next slide, again, I just want to be able to demonstrate some of the differences in terms of what's in front of you. So the TTC board budget on the expenditure side is consistent with what the city has provided in the preliminary capital program for the TTC. The one difference that you do see is the city has been able to add additional $585 million in provincial gas tax funding based on the provincial announcement, and there was an offset reduction equivalent in debt funding. This change has allowed the city to be able to address some critical unfunded capital work that exists in social housing, as well as George Street revitalization. There are some risks with gas tax funding in terms of any decline in gas consumption or a shift in the city's share of it, but we've been working closely with the city, and there's an assurance that those risks are going to be dealt with from the city. The next slide is the operating impacts of capital, and it's really the cost to either sustain capital programs upon completion, as well as any savings that might come from modernization initiatives. And what you see is really a combination of the two. Some of the key drivers that you'll see, again, is the ongoing impact of implementation of Presto. You see $8.2 million in added Presto fees in our operating budget for 2018, as well as a projected increase of an additional $31 million in 2020. On TYSSC, you see the impact in 2018 of the annualized cost of opening the TYSSC at $25 million, and then there's an additional $12 million in savings that you see in our 2-year outlooks and operating, associated with savings that would arise through the one-person train operations. The next list is a breakdown of our unfunded projects, and it's really broken into 2 categories. So the first category is our capacity to spend initiatives or projects. So again, this is work that exists, the need is there, but we've been able to reduce our budget or our cash flows against each of those projects based on what our historical spending rates have been against each of these. In total, that adds up to $427 million, and this is the breakdown of the projects by year where we've taken the reductions. The next list are projects that we've placed on the unfunded list based on funding capacity that we have today. So again, these are capital needs, capital requirements that we've had, but we've made the decision to include them on the unfunded list for two reasons. One being that the funding just doesn't exist today, but the second is because these are projects that essentially we have time to make a decision in terms of when we would have to commit funds against them. I think one important note that we'll get to on the next slide is we are essentially running out of time in terms of when we can continue to defer these projects. So in terms of the affordability levels, there is $2.7 billion of unfunded projects. The unfunded list was first created in 2014, trying to look at ways and opportunities to be able to add funding to the capital program to begin to address these base capital requirements. We're going to continue to do work on our end to try to determine where there's opportunities to push projects out, where there's opportunities to look at what the costs are and refine some of the costs and bring them down. But ultimately, if we're not able to fully address these capital needs, there are potential impacts that could begin as early as 2021 that we do need to bring to your attention, really in two categories. One on vehicle replacement, that if we're not able to replace aging vehicles, there is limitation on service delivery possibilities, as well as added maintenance costs on our operating budget associated with failure to replace the fleet. In terms of our aging infrastructure, again, there's potential service disruption that's associated with infrastructure that's not properly kept to a state of good repair. But as well as, again, operating impacts arising from maintenance costs that are then shifted to operating more in a reactive type maintenance program. So there is a recommendation in the city's budget notes in terms of developing a financing strategy over the coming years to try to address this. And that's something we're going to have to continue to work on to deal with. So the next few slides take us out of our base capital program and speak to the 4 transit expansion initiatives that are still within the TTC capital, overall capital program. The first table is associated with TYSSE and is really just the remaining $200 million that is sitting out there for the closeout costs and the remaining finalization of payments that will occur in 2018 following the opening of the extension. The next slide speaks to Scarborough Subway. We still have a $3.56 million total project cost that remains unchanged, that remains unchanged. This is just showing our cash flows, and when you're looking over the 10-year window, which is the 10-year capital plan, it shows that there's about $3.4 billion of cash flows over that 10-year. The next slide are 2 projects that were actually transferred over to the city's, to the TTC's capital program from the city in November. They're both strictly for design work, and the first is on the relief line, and the second is design work associated with waterfront transit from Exhibition to the Dufferin Gate Loop. And that concludes our presentation. I guess we'll open the floor to any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Questions, we'll begin with Councillor DiCiano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand that the subway extension into Vaughan was built with 4 different governments paying the bill. But in terms of the subsidy, who pays the 30 points for those getting in outside of Toronto?
The subsidy is entirely borne by the city. We did, back in early days, attempt to get the province to pay subsidy and at least to pay transitional relief. In other words, while the ridership grows, that has not been successful. The TTC bears the full cost, or the city does.
So the City of Toronto taxpayers are subsidizing Vaughan residents to come into the city?
Essentially, yes.
Wow, okay. There was a quick mention that there was a reduction in ridership with respect to Wheel-Trans. Did I hear that right? And if I did, why do we think that?
Yeah, so technically there was an assumption of ridership growth in Wheel-Trans for 2017. The assumption was that it would grow by 20%. On average, you've been seeing it grow by about 11 or 12% associated with aging population, as well as impacts from changes in terms of who would be allowed to ride on Wheel-Trans. What we're seeing is that we haven't experienced the full 20% growth, but we're continuing to experience the 10% range.
Okay, so it's still growing. Okay. With respect to page 16, first bullet point in bold, it talks about the transition costs. Does that mean transaction or is it transition? Or is it Both.
Technically, it's both. So there's a transaction fee at 5.25%, but we're calling them transition costs because there are savings to be achieved in future years through Presto implementation. So what you see is most of the costs are within the early years, and the savings would come in the following years.
So, yeah, so it's 5.25% that Presto charges us for each fare.
Correct.
And my understanding is, are they looking for more than 5.25%?
Well, let me answer that. The 5.25 sounds like a lot. The other GTA agencies like Durham Region, Brampton Transit, they pay over 9%, and they would dearly love to have the deal that we have. So I think it's true to say that Metrolinx Presto would like to renegotiate our contract and go up from the 5. We see no reason to flex on that. We don't intend to do that.
Is that up to us?
Is that a plus? Well,
No, is that up to us?
there's no reason why we would institute a reopener. Metrolinx have floated that idea for various reasons, but my advice to this committee would be, unless there's a compelling reason and some kind of a benefit that would accrue to us, why would we move off what is a very good deal?
Okay.
Master agreement is till 2026, so they're locked into that rate.
Okay. And on page 35, I know that Mr. Conforti talked about the backlogs in state of good repair, and that's always concerning because we never have enough money to actually get the things that we need built. And if you look on page 35, you've got $516 million. I guess this is over 10 years from development charges. What is the growth-related total cost that we have to implement over those 10 years? Where are we? How much are we short from what we're collecting and what we have to spend due to growth-related infrastructure upgrades?
Yeah, so if you look at the pie chart to the left, it breaks out service improvement and growth-related projects, and the total of those two would be about $524 million. But there's obviously growth components even within some of our SOGR work. If you look at the DC percentage, I think that there is an opportunity, and I know the city is continuing to do work on the background study, that there's likely an opportunity for us to try to leverage and maximize more DC funding in the capital program, and that's an initiative that we're going to continue to undertake for the 19 budget.
Okay, but up till now, we are not collecting enough money to cover the costs of all growth-related upgrades to the system.
So if you look at the DC reserve, the continuity schedule on the DC, we're actually spending essentially most of the DC revenue that's coming in today, but based on the projects that we have funded and the growth components associated with those, there's actually an opportunity of DC revenue that's coming in today that we need to ensure we've got eligibility to apply it against.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Those are all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, sorry to interrupt you. May I just ask if there's any questions specifically for me? I will have to leave in 5 minutes. For specific for me, otherwise my colleagues are here as long as you want.
I think, I do believe there will be questions, but not, I think you'll be okay, Andy, to leave. Councillor Campbell, or Councillor Nunziata, do you have questions with Andy specifically, or?
Okay. So where is it in your budget on new additional service, expanded service, additional routes? Because I know, Andy, you came in to see me, and I mentioned a number of routes. So is it anywhere in the budget, or did you just forget about it?
No, didn't forget about it. For 2018, the overall service offer, in terms of a net of the additional service we have to run for TYSSE, is the same. But in future years, we're saying we will have to have additional subsidy because ridership, we're predicting, will pick up again. But for the points you raised with me when I came to see you, we haven't forgotten those. At a very high level budget like that, they wouldn't be reflected, but they're the kind of changes we can make via our normal board change process. So we haven't forgotten about that. We owe you a response.
But it's not included, what you're showing us
Not
today.
as a line item in here, no.
Not a line item.
For service, we have protected service. It's maintaining the existing service level for the whole TTC.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the honor system, and I asked that when we did the launch of the budget, Do you know what the total cost, the total loss of revenue on that?
Based on 2%, which is the last audited figure, it's between $20–25 million.
$25 million?
Correct.
For the year?
Yes.
So that's a lot of money.
It is, although it needs to be
Yeah.
seen within the context of a $1.1 billion
Still, that's
draw. It is, absolutely.
$25 million lost in revenue and ridership, that's...
It is. So, but let me just answer that point. So we're not passive to that. We have now got 68 fare inspectors. That a few years ago there were no fare inspectors. So we are taking action to tackle fare evasion. Also, once Presto is fully in, that is truly a proof of payment system. Because at the moment, you could sneak in via the bus garage at Davidsville, and then once you're on the subway, there's no way of an inspector knowing whether you snuck in or not, because you just say, oh, no, I came in, I dropped a token in the box. With a Presto system, you must have proof of payment at any time on any mode, and the inspectors will carry around devices where they can check in a split second, did you tap or not?
What about the streetcars?
Same again. It's exactly the same again.
Well, people get on at the back.
Yes, but they have to tap. So, Councillor, the only way that you will get away from that, 68 inspectors is a very thin blue line when you divide them up by 3 shifts per day and vacation and sick days. So there's a limit to what they can achieve in a day. Really, I'd love to have 300 fare inspectors, but I have not submitted that because I know I won't get them.
So has the fare inspectors been successful?
Very much so. The fare inspectors, where they've been deployed onto routes, we've seen a reduction in fare evasion. They are issuing tickets at a very high rate, and invariably with without much discretion. They do have discretion, but the default is to issue a ticket.
Yeah. Okay, just on the streetcars, those streetcars that we ordered and bought 4 years ago, and they haven't been delivered yet.
6 years ago.
Was it 6 years ago?
At least.
No, I think it was longer than 6 years ago. So, because, is it 2012? Did somebody say that behind me? Okay, so because they haven't all been delivered, and I know that we've been, trying, and there's been a lot of discussion on that. Has there been any loss at all to us because of the delay of the streetcars?
Well, really,
Financially?
there's certainly
Financial
there's
loss.
savings that we could have achieved, because with a much bigger streetcar and still only one operator, the vehicles are inherently more efficient. So that's point number one. Point number two, there's a cost to the TTC because we're having to maintain older vehicles that should have been scrapped by now. So we're accumulating all of these costs. We're maintaining a ledger of these costs, and we are in commercial discussions and litigation with Bombardier over these costs.
So we'll charge back all those costs?
We've already applied liquidated damages to the max allowable within the contract to Bombardier, and we're also accruing costs that we think legitimately they should bear.
Okay, just one last question. The question that Councillor DiCiano asked about the Wheel-Trans, the answer you gave to him, is that on page 12, the contracted taxi services, that's below the budget, 12 million? Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, so essentially, without
okay.
achieving the estimates that we assumed, we didn't have to expend those dollars on contracted services.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Campbell next.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to say congratulations, Andy, on your last budget, and it's a great job, and Rick, no pressure. Okay, so couple of questions. When will Presto be? When will we be 100% on Presto?
The goal is by the end of 2018, but that's dependent on Metrolinx delivering the required machines that we've requested.
We have all 69 stations with machines, and
But there's also LUMs, so that's a single fare ride. And in order for us to get rid of legacy fare media and the collectors, we need those machines in the station.
which machines?
So they deliver LUMs, which are single ride tickets.
Okay.
So when people come into the subway system, if they don't have a Presto card and have no interest in buying
Right.
one, because they're occasional users, there's a machine there available for them to buy a ticket
Will that machine be available on a bus or a streetcar?
at stations only.
At stations only. So what happens if somebody gets on a bus or a streetcar and their Presto pass is expired? We don't kick them off.
I guess if they get inspected, then they'll get a ticket, unless they can.
No, but let's say they get on at the front, they tap, they get a buzzer. What happens?
They get a buzzer because they don't have enough money on their Presto card.
I get that.
I don't think Presto cards expire, to my knowledge, so.
Well, they do. And when you go below a zero balance, it'll take you one below a zero balance, and then, but you don't necessarily know that because it doesn't read it on the card, and then the next time it buzzes. And so what happens? Do we know what we're going to do?
They get caught.
Right now, our policy is if the equipment is not working on board,
No, assuming it's working.
if somebody is working, the person would get a ticket.
If they were checked.
They're checked by an inspector.
No, well, I'm
So
just
I guess
wondering,
it's
like,
the
what is the operator going to do, Rick? If somebody goes onto a streetcar and their card has now been drained of its money,
Right.
what do they have to get off? They have no means of payment.
So on the new streetcars, the operator does not interact with the customer.
Right.
Remember, they're in a confined
Right,
area in the
okay.
front. And that's why we put equipment on the rear, two machines on each train that it would distribute and let people pay, as well as the ability to tap.
Okay. I do want to talk, Steve, in regard to you've got the unfunded backlog, and but there were some assumptions that I didn't understand in terms of federal and provincial funding. I'm forgetting what slide it is. I think it's slide 38. You've got, yeah, it's slide 38. So federal and provincial funding this year, is to the tune of, $530 million. But then you're assuming by 2021, you've got it flatlined, federal and provincial funding at just over $200 million. I don't understand that.
So what you see over the length of the 10-year capital program, the federal funding and the provincial funding that we have in the budget is consistent with the federal gas tax and the provincial gas tax. What you have in the earlier years on the federal side is the gas tax coupled with PTIF funding. And on the provincial side, what you'll have is the provincial gas tax coupled with some LRV funding that we have based on an agreement that's in place.
But is that reasonable to expect that our funding is going to drop to such a degree?
Yeah, so in terms of the capital program, we'll budget for funding that we know that is actually, that we have an agreement in place and that exists. If there's a
That's it. So it's a very conservative.
Well, if there's a new federal funding program, we'd have to see which projects apply, what the criteria are, and what projects you might add
Okay,
to offset.
all right. Now, Andy said that will have ATC, Rick, Andy said we'll have ATC on the York-Spadina subway, from what is it, from Downsview on up? But he said we'll still have two persons on the train. Why is that? Because on the Shepherd line, we have ATC, and it's a one-person operator.
Right. Part of going to the single train person operation is to have ATC on the entire line. So they're going to have all ATC installed by 2020.
Right.
And we're going to in parallel prepare for the one-person train operation.
But could we
There was also a board report that was presented a few months, I'm going to say within 6 months ago, about equipment that would be required on the trains for camera systems to monitor along the side of the vehicle and inside the vehicle so that we have the operator have that ability.
Okay, we don't have those on the Line 1 trains yet. Okay. All right. When will we be able to have the Metro Pass exclusively on Presto?
So I think they're slowly transitioning out of the traditional Metro Pass by mid-next year. So there's a ramp up.
So maybe by June, all Metro Passes, is that?
That's the goal.
That's what. Okay. And it mentioned operating vacancies at 109. Last year it was like 48. Are those retirements or what is that? That's one of the first slides.
Yeah, it would be a combination. It would be regular churn, there might be retirements, there might be separations for other reasons.
Okay, I mean, it's not a lot given the number of employees. Okay, all right, that's it, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Burnside.
Thank you. Through you. In 2016, well, I just want to ask you, how do you calculate number of passengers on the service, that use the service?
So there's limited data that we have today based on Presto usage, but most of the ridership counts come from trip studies, trip diaries that I believe our service planning folk would go out and conduct.
So it has nothing to do with money coming through the gates?
So we do a revenue count as well, and then we would try to reconcile the two, but there's differences in terms of a boarding versus a revenue trip as well, because you understand there might be a transfer, so there might not be a revenue associated with that. But we do a revenue count, we do a trip study, and based on that information, the two groups talk together and try to make a determination of what projected.
So it's a combination?
Yeah.
So if there's greater fare evasion, your passenger numbers would actually, what you report might actually be lower than what is actually happening?
Yeah, but I guess what we're actually seeing, though, is our average fares are going up, which means that there's more, the revenue is increasing at a greater rate than our ridership counts are increasing. So it's actually the opposite of that in terms of what we're seeing. There's reasons for that. In all likelihood, it's people moving off a Metro Pass and going to a single ride, but that's what the data is showing us today.
Okay. So having read that article in the Star today, and I know Andy mentioned the last time you did an audit was 2011, right? Okay. So he did mention that the number of inspectors, there are 68 inspectors. Okay. How many are on at any one time?
A third of them?
Probably a third of that?
Yep, I would say that's a good estimate.
22. We'll give you 23. Okay. How many different vehicles are there at any one time in the system? How many vehicles are traveling around at any one time?
160
Vehicles?
streetcars?
No, streetcars, trains, buses.
Vectors are just on streetcars.
No, I just want to know how many, so there's how many trains total at any one time, how many streetcars at any one time, how many buses?
Okay, so buses, you'd look at about just shy of 1,600 buses, about 160 streetcars, and somewhere, this is going to be a little reach, could it be 600 or 700 trains at one time?
600 trains, okay. So that's 2,300. Oh, it's actually a fairly easy number. So you have a 1 in 100 chance of seeing an inspector.
So primarily the inspector.
23 inspectors, 2,300 trains, 1 in 100, right?
Primarily what we do is we match the inspectors with the streetcar system, recognizing its proof of payment. We actually tried to schedule the number of inspectors based on where the ridership is, and we move them around through the 11 routes. And they focus on areas where they track higher fare evasion than others. So overall, the goal is to inspect between 4 and 5% of overall ridership on a daily basis, all right, and try to get the fare evasion rate down under 2%. The most recent numbers have us in the 4.25% inspection rate and 1.6, 1.8% fare evasion on the streetcar line.
Okay, sorry, that's good enough for me. So if you were doing a comparison, you're saying about a 4.5% inspection rate, how would that compare to the what they do in London, in the UK? Recognizing that you actually have to prove that when you get off that you paid when you got on, right?
Correct.
London's a lot more stringent, but how many inspectors would there be?
So it would be hard for me to tell you specifically London, but I do know that North America, where they've installed or implemented proof of payment systems, the goal is that 4 or 5% to attain the less than 2% fare evasion rate.
Okay. So you're in line?
We are in line.
You're in line. Okay, that's good. From what the article said, which kind of makes sense, the risk is being exacerbated by changes made in the system in the last 6 years, right? Right. So why would you assume that why would you still use a number that in 2011, a 2% number, when you know that the risks of fare evasion have actually gone up? Why would you be using that old number?
I'll take that, because that's the latest number that the TTs has based on a system-wide review. I can speak from an industry standard that most of us in the industry recognize. There's somewhere it could be 2 or 3% fare evasion at any one time. We do have outliers, like in the report or the audit that was taking place here that we have to review. We recognize that, but over the course of the last few years, it's the initiatives that have taken place to try to limit the fare evasion that can take place. The board has approved over 60 inspectors. Almost 70 fare inspectors. We've increased our constable force by 10 in the last 2 years, as well as the implementation of Presto.
So you recognize, sorry for interrupting, I just have to have one last question. They're going to cut me.
Oh, I apologize.
No. So you recognize it's probably a situation that's worse than 2%, right? Okay, that's not a question. That was a rhetorical one, because I have one last. And sorry, I just want to get my questions in. So for the last, for the inspectors on the streetcars, Because I think you've sort of said that's probably where a bulk of the situation of fare evasion arises. What are they finding in terms of evasion rates?
Those evasion rates are reported actually from the inspectors. They tally it every day, bring it back to the office, and we have it analyzed. So we go by route, time of day, and then that's where they put the placement of the inspectors. So that comes directly from the people in the field.
And sorry, what is that percentage?
4 to 5% inspection with a 1 to 6, 1.78 fare evasion rate. That's right with the industry. What we do is we talk about, we originally we're looking for about 100 inspectors, and we decided at the time we'd inch it up to get to that sweet spot, so we didn't ask for too much, and yet we do know in the future when we go to Presto, the likelihood is we'll need a few more.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Any other questions? Oh, Councilman Havoc.
Yes, thank you very much. Just on the fare evasion, I know we have to do our due diligence as TTC to get the accurate number. When is that report going to be due? When can you commit to that report?
We do not plan to do a full audit, because keep in mind the article was based on a draft study
Yeah,
that's
no,
been completed. The full audit will be done once Presto's fully implemented, because that's the only time across all our modes that you can ask somebody for proof of payment. Currently, proof of payment's only required on streetcars.
Is not part of our deal with Metrolinx that they're paying transition costs that they are paying? So to go from the legacy system to the Presto system, they are responsible for costs. Isn't that accurate?
Well, not all costs. It's very scripted.
Sorry, costs related to the
Lost revenue?
lost revenue.
Yes, yes.
So we would need it, is it not fair to say that we would need to find out what that lost revenue is?
But
and
it's
how are they gonna-
lost revenue related to device reliability,
Correct, correct.
not fare
Oh, I see.
evasion, because
Not fare
people don't
evasion.
want to pay the fee that's required to get on our system.
I see, okay. Okay, so just on that, I don't see any revenue from Metrolinx for that lost revenue related to failure of equipment. And, you know, I've gotten lots of complaints on it. I'm sure others have as well. I know others have as well. Do we have a handle on what that lost revenue is from failure of equipment?
So we have billed them up till the beginning of August. With this new CEO in there, he's taking his time at reviewing the methodology that we used. So a bill has gone out to recover those revenues, and right now we're waiting to hear back from them.
Do you have a ballpark number as to what that might be?
Do you have the number?
I think it was 6.5.
I believe the number is around $6.5 to $7 million that we've billed them, but what's happened, I'll be meeting with the new CEO of Metrolinx the second week in January to have a discussion on this.
So that could be a new revenue for 2017,
One time,
one time?
yes.
Yeah.
There's a concern on that from their standpoint, so we're going to get together and start having that discussion.
So it's $6 to $7 million, subject to a meeting in January, and you'll, I guess, report to the TTC and maybe this committee on what that.
Yeah, we're to come back to the board
Right.
of the TTC with that number.
Okay, I've seen it somewhere, but it's not highlighted. What's the city, how much is the city subsidy for 2018 proposed?
23.6.
No, the whole thing, the whole
Oh, sorry,
big number.
713?
Yeah, it's between Wheel-Trans and TTC Conventional is on one of the slides, it's around 700 and
13.
713. It's the largest subsidy ever that the city has given to the TTC. If we went by history, not counting the last few years, the province would assume half of that, would it not?
pre-1997, I think.
If they
Yeah,
assumed
pre-amalgamation years, then yeah, that's accurate.
they were paying 75% of capital, but they were paying, I think it's a rhetorical question, I know the answer, but I think it's good for the budget committee to hear that if we continued the historical trend, not counting the last few years, that 713, the hit to the city would be $356 million, and $356 million would come from the province to help pay for things like York Region residents taking public transit, because the city of Toronto is paying for that, taxpayers paying for that, the extension to Highway 7, and so on. So really, from a fairness, equity point of view, the province owes us, if you look at historical patterns, about we're out $356 million that we used to receive that we're not receiving this year from the province. Would that be fair to say?
Based on historical funding levels, then yes.
Okay. My last thing is around buses. How many buses will be freed up between Friday and Monday, given the opening of the TYSSE? New buses that are going to be rationalized given the new subway extension?
There are approximately, around numbers, 50 to 60 buses that are being reallocated throughout the system, recognizing the opening of the subway. That said, this budget really incorporates the fact that because the Bombardier vehicles are so late, we continually have to put more and more buses on streetcar routes. There was a point in time just a few years ago where we were putting 202 streetcars out on a daily basis. We're down to about 160, and our forecast going into February is in the 150, 155 range.
So they will not see, because of the, okay, you build a subway, you got some buses, people will not see a relief in overcrowding because those buses are going to be necessary to help out on the streetcar side of the ledger.
In some cases, they will see a relief to overcrowding, but a good majority of those vehicles are going onto the streetcar side.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So the big, like, there is so much good in this budget, like on the capital side, on the fare side, on the 2-hour transfer, on the fair equity strategy, assuming that it gets funded side of things. The one issue that and even this morning, I get it, I'm standing there on the streetcar, I'm crowded like this, and I hear a little conversation, God damn TDC, they think we're sardines in here. Crowding and overcrowding. If you had $1 million, as the song goes, what could you do with overcrowding? How could you, what difference would $1 million make?
Your last question.
Well, in the peak period of time, it wouldn't make much difference. We don't have any more buses. We put every bus on the street we possibly can. We're now up to about 102% of bus availability for the first time since the TTC remembers, and we put every bus out we possibly can. We address where the locations are. Off-peak, we're trying to do something very similar. We're identifying where we have those overcrowding at the peak of the peak from what the issue would be for off-peak, and we would address it in those areas.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Davis, it's all yours.
I just wanted to ask about Wheel-Trans and the family of service pilots. I'm sorry, I probably should know about it. Are you expanding it in 2018? How much are you expanding it? It looks like you're adding about $6.5 million to Wheel-Trans. Could you just explain more of that to me? I'm on the Disability Committee, and I really want to understand this.
So we're not adding a significant amount of money in 2018, recognizing the ridership growth in 2017 was significantly less than we had planned for. We had planned for about a 20% increase in ridership, recognizing the AODA changes in 2017, and we only seeing 12, 13%, 11, it varies. So in 2018, that budget is being reallocated to the continued 11% growth in 2018. Now, as for family of services, what we've really done is focused on the ability of giving individuals the opportunity to capitalize on the conventional service. As buses are now all accessible, we got a good deal of our subway, and the streetcars as they come on are all accessible. It really is, rather than taking people from A to Z, it's taking them to the closest accessible service and give them that ability. With that, we've been now able to also provide same-day service where people can call and have the freedom to move, as opposed to previously having to book either a week ahead of time or within 24 hours ahead of time. So over the course of the year, we've started increasing to about 1.5% to 2% of our ridership in 2017, being able to capitalize on the conventional service, and every year we intend to increase that to a point where by 2025, when all the stations, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just wanted to ask for 2018. Are you expanding? When does a pilot become a program that's permanent for, I hear you say it's by 2025.
Right, we started it in 2017. We're looking at the first year, working with our ACAT group to do a review after a year to see how we're doing as we build it up.
So that year, that review hasn't taken place yet. But you're expecting to expand it in 2018? Do you have a target?
I believe that the target for ridership is about 3% in 2018, and it just incrementally goes up to about 50% by 2025.
Okay. The other thing is the community buses. They have, at least in our area, the 404 has expanded its route. And at first we thought it was permanent, and then we heard it was a pilot. Is the 404 and the other community buses, are they going to continue with their current routes, expanded routes this year in 2018?
Yes, that's my, I apologize, that's my understanding. They call it a pilot because as we're trying to test these new means of providing service in different areas, we know it takes a little bit of time to generate ridership. That's why we call it a pilot. We'll take a look at it, assess it after a year, and then just continue on. It may need some tweaks, I'm not sure yet.
Okay, so there's no threat about it not continuing. It's a question of the current route.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no other questions, thank you very much for your presentation and being here today. Okay, next are the accountability offices. We will be beginning with the Auditor General's office, then the office, the Integrity Commissioner, Lobbyist Registrar, and then the Ombudsman to finish off. Welcome, and whenever you're ready, you can begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're just going to get our presentation up. So first, I'd like to welcome Ina Chan. She's my Assistant Auditor General, and I would also like to recognize Grace Young from the Clerk's Office, who assisted with the preparation of the presentation. By way of background, I've come here a few years, and you understand what I do, I think. We have our fraud and waste hotline, we have our performance audits, but I wanted to move to the first slide to just speak a little bit about the importance of the Auditor General's role. So as City Council members, you are responsible for the accountability of operations, and my role is to provide the information to assist you with that role. So Days Hotel, the former Auditor General of Canada, mentioned that the Auditor General, it was important to help with identifying some fundamental issues, helping City Council to improve its oversight. So that's important. So I'm going to speak, first of all, do a little more background on our accomplishments. I'm going to talk about how we're moving forward, and then I'm going to speak in relation to risks. So in relation to key accomplishments, the last year we ended up doing 18 performance audit reports and in-depth investigation reports. We have 189 recommendations, and you'll see an increase from 2016 to 2017 because of a budget increase of $1 million. We've identified this year $61 million in potential new savings that are yet to be realized from audits done this year. And we've also realized, in other words, we have identified in prior audits the opportunity to realize savings, and management has gone ahead, implemented the recommendations, and we can see that $78 million is being realized over a 5-year period, the next 5 years, because they've implemented this year prior recommendations. That number has increased from prior years. So if I can look at the next slide, and I know you can assist me with this slide. Essentially, the blue represents the savings that we have already reported. And then we have the kind of white, the light area. They're potential new savings waiting to be realized. So last year in 2016, we identified potential savings that have yet to be implemented. Management is working on those. And we've identified through our increased funding a higher amount, 61 million for potential for going forward.
We also identified, and we have re-audited and verified, that $78 million has been realized for the next 5 years based on management implementing its recommendations. Ina, would you like to see that?
Excuse me, it's a bit of a buzz happening in the room. It's a bit hard to hear, so I'm just wondering if everybody can just keep the conversations low. Thanks.
So just to recap, for the $78 million, it's a one-time and projected 5-year cost over 5 years, and there's from previously issued audits. So it takes time for management to implement. When they do, we calculate those costs. But for new areas, there's $61 million that we've identified this year for going forward. Management will be implementing this year and part of next year. Ina, would you like to, I'm going to ask my Assistant Auditor General just to do a quick review of this slide, which shows the additional savings realized in 2017 related to the prior year's reports.
So there were 5 previously issued audit reports that are listed on the slide, which pretty much over the course of 5 years will realize $78 million in savings. And the 2 that I wanted to highlight are the $37 million in cost savings related to the 2014 implementation of recommendations from the 2014 TTC bus maintenance, bus warranty audit. They changed their processes to identify bus warranties that can be pursued for warranty claims, and have verified that there are projected savings of that expected to be $37 million. And then the other major report with recommendations that have been implemented in the current year is related to improving controls over property tax assessments. So new systems were implemented to increase assessment appeals, which allow them to have an increase in property taxes retroactively and prospectively collected.
So what you will notice just from the prior slide, what you'll notice is in the improving the controls over property taxes in that one, we actually estimated much lower. We're conservative in our estimates. And then what happens is we wait until the recommendation has been implemented. We work with management from that perspective, and then we re-audit and verify with management that these savings of one time of $2 million and then annual recurring of $5 million will continue to come through. In the bus maintenance, and you heard that the buses are more reliable. Rich Wong at the prior audit committee said it was partly through our recommendations. So these numbers are verified through audit. Looking at the potential savings, and the reason I bring this up for 2017 is because we did receive we had 3/4 of a year that we were able to redeploy the $1 million that this budget committee did provide to us. And so what we wanted to do was we extended audits, we fast-tracked audits, we staffed audits and made them, did more work in certain areas. And so the realized potential savings going forward from that work is about $61 million over 5 years. And it includes pursuing market parts, blanket contracts. TTC is still here. I've got notes from Mr. Byford that they are actively putting out an RFP to realize savings in this area. The exact numbers, we don't know, but we believe that they're going to be substantial based on the work we've done. So just on the return on investment, it goes up. For every dollar invested, there's about 8.3 that we expect by when we report out in February 2018 in savings. So again, this is one-time savings plus any recurrent savings over 5 years, and we stop there. So for a small investment, there is a return. But it's more than just the investment. We don't actually select based on dollars return. We select projects based on risk. And we look at other things, services, we look at making sure improvements in process, we look at vulnerability of IT. So there are many projects that we undertake to make sure that we have other controls in place, and the risk may be in IT, and you may not see a saving in revenue in costs, but the long-term cost and vulnerability to the city the vulnerability, everything is reduced. So we have many benefits just besides bringing money through the door. So The major achievements, when we look, we have 13 performance audits and 5 major investigations. We have additional $61 million going forward that we've identified this year. We have more recommendations, and the city has realized already $78 million that is in new one-time savings and annual recurring savings. I should mention that at this point, we have hired, to do this, what we've done is we've hired from the lowest level audit analysts. Because the Budget Committee had projected, next slide, the Budget Committee had provided to our office, City Council approved a temporary budget increases for additional capacity of $1 million for 2017, $1.5 million for 2018, and additional $1.4 million for 2019. Because of that, what we've done is we've hired temporary staff at a low level to be able to achieve and realize use our resources the most efficiently, and to build up knowledge and capacity within the office, because we've had significant turnover. So included in the projects this year, you're mentioning TTC revenue. We have had on our plan TTC revenue. It was due to start in the fall, but we were asked, because management was so busy with getting the subway open, they asked for 3 months reprieve and to start in January. So our revenue audit of TTC operations is going to commence in January. It's going to be an independent look at what's coming through the door, presto, end-to-end service. It's going to be a very large audit, but it's going to potentially answer some of the questions that you had today. TTC has been aware that we're going to do that audit for about 2 years, the last work plan it was on, and this work plan. We're also looking at Toronto Community Housing, Parks, Forestry, and Recreation, planning from end to end at the city. We're looking at that. So there's a lot that is getting underway this year. We are coordinating with the Transformation Office, and we're coordinating with Internal Audit, and we're coordinating with other reviews. And even every 6 months with the Transformation Office, we meet, and we have the information we provide is really is very valuable to the input into the transformation. It's important to transform in the right way and do it once, rather than transforming a system that might not be working so well. So we meet with the Transformation Officer. So 80% of our salary is budgets. 80% of our budget is salaries, and then we have only about 16% that is for some specialists. 4% is for the running of the office and professional certifications. So we're basically people-based. And I think this is my most important slide, actually. We are an organization in transformation. 70% of the people in my office are new to their positions over the last 3 years. 70% are new to their positions, the blue block. And the reason is because the office had several retirements over the past 5 years. So of the last 5.5 years, 43% of professional staff have retired or have moved on. Generally, we have stability when people come, and what we do is we try to grow staff. So that's significant. We have 30% that are temporary, and the focus is on educating, keeping city knowledge here, and the last slide is staff who are in new positions. So all of the executive are in their new positions. Some have been with the office before, but they're new to their positions. The forensic staff, you can see the blue lines. The bottom line of blue, what we're doing is we're succession planning and looking long-term for the city. These people get the best skills, the best training, the best citywide view, and we grow them through the system so they understand city operations. So we are hiring at the very audit analyst, not even an auditor. When I started, there was one auditor to do the work, and there were managers and seniors, and it was top-heavy. What we're doing is we're training, bringing in below the auditor, audit analysts at the very lowest level, and growing for succession planning, so over the next 5 years, people can stabilize within their positions. So. We've hired on a temporary basis. That's our biggest risk, because We do, we expend resources to hire. We speak 10 different languages in the office. We have excellent staff, and they want to be here to make a difference. So that's our biggest risk. That's why we took the approach we did. We're not going to be doing more hiring at this level, but we're going to be looking to stabilize the resources we have so we can make sure that there's a stable office. I have to leave my position in about 4 years, and we want to make sure that the office is stabilized before then. Now, the org chart just shows that it used to be one auditor, and now we have people at the below that we're bringing through the system to train them up, and that makes up about the first $1 million that I was provided with this year. We already have contracts in the work to capitalize and to bring back more savings for the city for next year, but out of the 1.5 million that's been requested back in September, we have a leg, and there's an opportunity there for the 0.5 of the 1.5 potentially to redeploy. Even though we've put in 1.5, that was back in September for our October, I am comfortable that we're able to deliver on the projects in our work plan within that just additional $1 million. So I'll leave that to the Budget Committee to think about further. So to recap, we've done everything you've asked us to do. We have provided the potential for savings, and we've realized significant savings. And the savings, in my view, are still conservative. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We have made a request of 1.5 million, but because we had a lag in hiring, and because we are, because of the timing of certain projects, I don't think I'm going to be using up in an efficient manner the last $500,000. So that's available to redeploy. So if I receive what I received last year plus just 1 million for this year, we will be able to deliver on that because I don't want to push and not use it in an efficient way. So that really recaps our audit budget. We have additional slides to show how much is used for staffing, which is most of it. We have additional slides on more savings, but I think you have the picture of what we're doing. Just to recap the projects we plan to do besides the revenue project for TTC, City Planning Division, we're looking at shelters, we're looking at the administration of social housing, we're looking at the TCHC, IT, Parks, Rec, vendor direct billing. So we have a lot that we have underway now and a lot that we need to deliver on for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll begin with questions. I have Council Nunziata, then DiCiano.
Okay,
Way down the line.
And thank you for your presentation. So you've given us your key accomplishments and activities. $78.1 million in new realized savings, and then also potential savings. The problem that I have, and I know that you audit to ensure that, in fact, that they did have the savings that was projected. The problem that I have is when we look at all the budgets and all the audits that you've done, I don't see anywhere in their budget, individual budgets, that show this is the savings that were accumulated through the audit report. We say there's savings, but I don't see it anywhere in anybody's budget that we have audited that in fact they did have savings, and there should be a line item on that, because I don't know if there's been savings or not, because we don't see it. So that I have a real problem with that.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I agree better information can be had, and I'll give you one example of a division that's done this, and the potential is, and to see if we can make the link. So we can't control what divisions put in their budget, but this is a good example. So we performed an audit of city cleaning services in 2016. Is it 2016? 2016. And that year, the facilities group identified, and you see on the board, to the Budget Committee, to the Budget Committee, the briefing note, to the budget briefing note that there are savings to be had. And then in the line item, you will bring up the line item. They include it in their line item, so it is possible.
It's the $78.1 million that we saved.
So we can.
Where is it?
So we have the working papers to support that. The issue is it's not getting into the budget reports potentially so that you're seeing it. Would it be possible to be, I'm just going to ask my staff, would it be possible?
So we report on the realized savings annually as part of our annual report. The 78.1 realized in 2017 will be part of our annual report that goes to Audit Committee in February.
In February. So we have it by division and we have it by project. We can provide actually.
What I mean is that when we go through the individual budgets that we are now for 2018 budget for 2000, like where am I seeing that savings in the individual budgets? I know you're going to be bringing a report forward, but the departments, where do I see it? That's the issue I have, because I never see it unless I'm missing it. Is it there? I don't think it's there.
So in the, we don't control what divisions put into their budgets, but what we do outline in our annual report in February, the actual realized savings for the next 5 years based on the implementation of that they have done. But we can potentially, I think we've done most of our work, and we're just not, we can probably provide a table of the $78 million. It's in our budget report.
Well, maybe that could be a briefing note for, yeah, we need to write, I know you're going to show us, but what I want to see is the various departments. I want them to show me that this is what I saved, not what you're saying.
So I would suggest let's do a briefing note request on that to get that so we can see that. Josie, did you want to say anything?
So through you, Mr. Chair, I think that at least the only area that I know that there's a savings being reflected in the budget this year is a presentation you just had from the TTC. The efficiencies that they identified started to show some of the impact of the work from the review that the Auditor General did. But we, through our budget notes, try to identify if there's a cost associated with an implementation of an AG recommendation where there's been requests, say, for more oversight, and then the efficiency piece, people identify them but don't necessarily always make the link. So if that's what you're asking for, we could work with the Auditor General to do some better documentation going forward. But in terms of the information that I think that you're just speaking of, then I think a briefing note would be a great idea, and then we can look at that in comparison to what's been provided for this year and moving forward documentation that's.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine, because that's really what I want to see, because are we actually getting, well, everything that we're, the savings that we're anticipating, because there's no point of us doing this if we actually don't see any savings. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mahavik, and then, Councillor DiCiano, you're right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is to the Auditor General. When I read your reports or your audits, I notice that there are lots of reference to data analytics. And I know since I've gotten here to City Hall, I've certainly tried to put motions forward and get the city and their divisions using data analytics. And the answer I usually get is it's going to cost us millions and millions of dollars for software to undertake this type of stuff. How many millions have you spent on software to be able to use data analytics in your reporting?
We spend approximately 20,000 on licenses, and we spend about 7,000, 8,000, maybe 10,000 to train staff each year. So we spend in a year, we spend maybe about max 30,000. But I think I think we need to unpack it a little bit, because you can have data and include it in an Excel spreadsheet and analyze it. So data analytics can be a range from an Excel spreadsheet of data that you have organized in a methodical way through to artificial intelligence application on data. And sometimes you don't have everything, so you build it. And then, so I guess from a perspective, what I do is I look at the information that helps to answer the questions to make sure that the objectives are being achieved, and then we organize the data around that and then look for anomalies. So to answer your question, for the entire office, including all the licenses and everything, about 30,000 a year, and that's not conservative, that's max. So that's what we do. It's more how you think about the data, I think, is making that shift is important. It's not just having data, it's just how you manipulate it.
And the data you're accumulating through data analytics, is this information that you've asked for and you have been unable to ascertain from divisions, or is this something above and beyond what most departments should already be doing in terms of looking at, every department has troves of information coming into it. Mm-hmm. Do you see us utilizing that information in a positive way to see the patterns where we can better manage? Are we doing a good job in our divisions of looking at data?
I think the way forward is looking at data, but I think it's really being smart about what you need. So a good example might be we did work just recently in the municipal licensing, and in the positive inspections. For me, logically, I would want to know where each of the inspectors were, and which ward did they inspect in, where did they go, how many times did they inspect businesses, what was the nature of the business. So we took that information and gave it to a student that we had, and we did some analysis on that, and we could see where they're visiting pubs, and where they're visiting coffee shops, or where they're visiting other things. And the challenge is the data has to be reliable, and there may be challenges, and I think there were some challenges in the division with that, but whatever you have, it's important to think, where are my people, how are they working, how is it being deployed, is it efficient? And that's where the data is, that's the way I look at it. So I think analysis of data is the way forward, because it helps you to manage better. But it doesn't have to be always complicated. Just think about what you need, and then we kind of tell the story around that.
Right. And the software that you're using, is it strictly Excel, or have you gone as far as AI systems?
We're right now, we're not into AI, but we will be. But we are looking at, we just use a package called, I don't know if I should say, but most auditors use a package called Audit Command Language. Internal audit has the same package. Okay. The city has the same package. It's not unique to our office. Most audit offices have that package. There are other packages that are similar, and that's where there's a lot of development. So I'm not promoting that over one over another, but there's packages there to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Havoc.
So just, if I heard you right, 2018, your work plan will include pieces of a TTC, pieces of a TCHC, Planning Department, PFNR. Did I miss any major pieces of work in 2018?
Toronto Police, Regulated Interaction.
Right.
So social support and housing. Vendor direct billing. So we have our work plan.
Okay.
The direct billing, operational audit of parks and recreation, that's probably 2 in there.
Yeah.
Engineering services, there's probably 2 in there. Toronto revenue operations, Toronto TTC have revenue operations. In information technology at TTC. And it's not just maybe one project, there might be more than one.
Okay, good. That's
You can
thank you. You got a lot on your plate there.
We do.
And at the
we
end of
have
the
a
day-
number- We mentioned the sector, and we have about 5 listed in
Yeah,
there
yeah.
that we will be choosing from and to go with that.
Okay, I asked that question to set up this question. So it's, to buy that, it's $7.444 million. Is that a fair way of putting it?
That will be, yes, to deploy
Okay, so
all
for us to do
extra
our due
projects.
diligence on the Budget Committee, and given that last year was 5.9 million,
Mm-hmm.
the question that we have to ask is, okay, let's say we can't afford 7.444, we can only afford 5.9. What falls off the table or gets pushed
So
up the
I've
next?
identified that in my work plan, and what falls off the table is, one of your biggest risks right now is the biggest, I guess, not drivers, it wouldn't be risk, drivers is human resources and the driving of that, and so we've identified that might not be done. There's centralized social housing wait list, operational planning across the city, cash management, investment policies, and operational audit of fleets, and then some of the procurement around some major capital projects and Toronto Hydro. So we've identified in Table 3 to our work plan. If you don't have it handy, we can provide that to you. We have it, we presented at Audit Committee.
I don't have that, so that's why I asked that question. Okay,
So
as long as it's there, as long as we know what,
We have parceled it out.
yeah, okay, that's great, that's fair. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll go over to my left now, and we'll ask Councillor Campbell for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your presentation, you talk about a savings of $1.7 million for Invest Toronto. What was that savings that you identified? Now that Invest Toronto is no longer with us.
Okay. So I'm going to have Ina speak to that because she actually conducted the audit.
Through Mr. Chair, so when we conducted the Invest Toronto audit, one of the recommendations was to look at what is the optimal way to fund and strategize foreign direct investment in Toronto. And so we had recommended that council decide how to proceed and what the optimal funding was. Council decided to take part in a regional agency. So as with the folding of Invest Toronto, the windup of Invest Toronto, the funding towards foreign investment attraction activities is reduced.
Okay, so the Auditor General's office is taking credit for the setting up of the regional agency?
No, we're not. All it was about was the recommendation was that the recommendation was to determine what the optimal funding model was to be.
Okay.
And if it was to be as putting $2.4 million or whatever it was into Invest Toronto or a regional body.
Okay, but that change may have occurred anyway.
When we can identify that if the action is being taken pursuant to our recommendation, management has implemented, and in many cases come up with their own figures. We've identified in the tables to our report that we have to obtain sufficient evidence to show that it's the impetus for this to happen is from our recommendations. A good example is TTC and some of their maintenance. If it turns out that they implement the recommendation and then they realize that there's savings, and then we audit and verify that there are savings, then we would include it.
I want to stick to this, because you're taking credit for savings of $1.7 million and for the windup of Invest Toronto, which from my understanding is that occurred irrespective of any recommendation from the Auditor General.
So our Auditor General's report was reported in 2014 under the previous Auditor General right at the end of his term. Okay. The recommendation was for the city manager to determine an approach for the city's efforts to promote Toronto as an investment attraction, the advantages and disadvantages of a regional economic development agency, and the recommended levels of funding. So at that time, Invest Toronto annual operating costs were $2.6 million. My understanding is now with the windup, the grant towards Toronto Global will be about $0.9 million. So that's a reduction in funding towards it of 1.7.
So I want to move on then. You've got savings for the TTC of, this is on slide 7 and on slide 6. On slide 6, you've got review of TTC bus maintenance department, $8 million one-time savings, $5.8 million recurring savings, for a total of $37 million, which is a big number. And then procurement practices, improving materials management, purchasing policies, $6 million for a total of $40 million. So these are big savings that sort of pump up the overall number of savings. But when I look at the TTC deck, under service efficiencies, I see that they've taken credit for just under $3 million, not $6 million. So have you gone back and sort of seen what the TTC has or has not done and verified these numbers? Because you're saying it's $40 million over 5 years, and I suspect that it's somewhat less than that.
So we do go back and audit and obtain information related to this to support these. So we just don't take the number. Management confirms they've implemented.
Well, that's the way it looks like.
We work with the savings. We can provide additional information related to that.
A differential by 50% is a big differential, especially when you're coming looking for an extra $1 million.
These numbers have been re-audited.
Okay. I'm looking at the TTC deck, and the TTC deck was fairly comprehensive in terms of their savings. They've gone through Presto, TYSSE, Wheel-Trans ridership, and so on, even itemizing items of just $300,000, and under service efficiencies, it's less than $3 million, and you've claimed $6 million. So for me, there's a bit of a gap.
Well, I don't have the numbers before me, Councillor,
Okay.
and the individual support, but I can say the numbers are audited. And I can also say that when Rich Wong was before the audit committee, I think it was back in, I don't know if it was June or October, he was saying that the buses are more reliable based on the implementation of recommendations and the warranties, and the numbers around that have been audited and are included here. I believe also here is Rick Leary could also speak to, for example, Wheel-Trans, and then we don't just take it out of the air.
With respect, Auditor General, I have a lot of respect for your work. I'm not questioning that there weren't savings. I'm just questioning the quantification of the numbers. That's all.
Fair enough. And if you require more information on the quantification, more than happy to provide you with the substantiation.
That's my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions, the Auditor General? Councillor Davis?
So just so I understand, Council made a decision to add $1.5 million to the budget, but it's for consideration, as in new and enhanced. Is that correct? It's not, because it looks as though it's integrated in your budget.
It was temporary funding for, my understanding, Councillor, for up to 3 years for these amounts based on approval of the audit plan. That was my understanding. And in the base, that it was a temporary.
It was not for budget consideration. You've built it into the budget, assuming that it's in your budget.
As the slide indicates, it's temporary. We'll pull it up. It's a temporary funding for up to 3 years. The budget committee has obviously discretion at any point in time to grant or not grant. There's not an issue there.
Maybe I'll ask
That was my understanding.
Ms. Levita. So this is not a new and enhanced? What is it?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we really have no position on this because we don't get involved in the oversight of the budget and ensuring consistency with the rest of the organization because they're independent officers. But the recommendation that was made last year was looking at a 3-year view to provide additional funding for value for money audits. And my understanding was subject to the annual audit work plan, which you approved at council last week.
I still don't understand. So it's approved, it's a given?
This is up for the committee to decide. I don't provide advice on the AOs.
That was my understanding also.
Okay, so, and that also adds 14 new staff, is that correct?
The funding for 2017 includes temporary staff who are at the very lowest level because we have the risk
But it's 14.
It does include that, yes.
And it says in here you had 29 and a half staff in 2015.
That's correct.
So it looks to me it's about a 36% increase in staffing since 2015 in 2 years.
Thank you, Councillor. I was deployed $1 million, and I used that to produce the results and to plan for the next 2 years. That was what's needed to be able to meet the objectives given to me by Council and Audit Committee. I did not ask Councillor for that money last year. I did not make a request.
Just asking to understand it. So the
Sorry, just through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to be really clear to the committee that, like all budgets, the entire budget is up for consideration, right? So the base budget as well as new. So it is up to committee and council to decide on both the base budget and any new and enhanced requests for all groups.
Correct.
Okay.
That's why we hired temporarily.
Okay, I just don't, the format is different, so it's hard to understand what is integrated in the base and what is considered new and enhanced.
Council,
So I'll figure that out later.
I think just to help staff, I think one of the challenges they don't have an ability to decide whether it's going to go in the base or new and enhanced. It automatically goes into the base, the request, because it's out of their purview. So I think that's what they're trying to say.
Right. And maybe I would just ask again if, or this is time limited, it says in here, the 1.5 million that council approved. So is it specifically for a certain set of projects? That's why it's time limited?
It's dependent on the work plan, first of all. It's time limited because I believe, it was actually this committee that requested that we deploy, and I believe it's to identify the efficiencies to get them in place earlier so that the city can identify savings, but also efficiencies and better operation. But, Councillor, I've also identified that of the 1.5 million, I've only, even though my budget said that today, because we've done a lot of analysis as the year progressed and there were some projects that were delayed, I've identified that it's really the budget for this year is an additional 1 million, not 1.5. So I just wanted to let you know that. So the delivery of our projects within that is because we want to make sure we're deploying it in a very efficient way. So just for clarity. You might need to make a motion to that effect so that it is clear, but.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next, we have the Office of the Integrity Commissioner.
Or here, I can get this.
Welcome, and you can proceed when you're ready.
Thank you very much, Mr. Budget Chair. Good morning, members of the Budget Committee. Thank you for having me here today. One, here we go. Perfect. I'm pleased to be here to present to you the budget request of the Office of the Integrity Commissioner for 2018. I also would like to acknowledge the assistance of Grace Young from the Office of the Clerk, who is instrumental in helping my office prepare for today's appearance and in preparing my budget. Let's see here. There we go. I am here today recommending that Budget Committee recommend to City Council that necessary enhancements to the operating budget of the Office of the Integrity Commissioner be made. I'm seeking enhancements to provide my office with a suitable budget for external legal and investigation support and to staff a temporary training and education officer. These requests are similar to the requests I've made in the past, but there is a particular urgency to the request this year because of some important legislative changes that are coming because of provincial legislation changes in Bill 68, and I will tell you about that in more detail in a few minutes. When compared against the base of my budget, it is a significant request that I'm making. However, I think it's important to note that the enhancements make up only a very small portion of the City of Toronto's preliminary budget. For my presentation today, I would like to first briefly describe and remind all of you, I know you're well familiar with the duties of my office. I'd like to provide you with an overview of the output of my office for 2017 and a bit of a looking back to see how we're keeping pace with years before. And then I'd like to provide you with more details about the enhancement requests I'm making. I wish to emphasize again that the need for the enhancements this year is particularly acute because of legislation changes. And Toronto City Council is not the only council in Ontario right now that is wrestling with this issue. So councils across Ontario are facing requests for enhanced funding in this area because of provincial legislation changes. As you all know, my duties consist of 4 main functions. I provide advice, I carry out investigations, I provide education and outreach, and I provide policy advice and guidance to council and local boards. I want to emphasize for you that the people who can come to my office to seek advice is about approximately 1,000 people. So the City Council is the smallest component of that, but there are many, as I know you all know, many dedicated volunteers who serve on the local boards of Toronto, and they are increasingly using my office because they are, believe it or not, subject to the same requirements that all of you are when it comes to the Code of Conduct and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. So let me drill down a little bit to tell you a little bit about what my office's output is. For 2017, I'm projecting that we're going to be resolving approximately 200 requests for advice to members of council, and that includes can include multiple requests from members of council. I'm also providing advice to approximately 25 different local boards in the City of Toronto. For 2017, I've received 22 formal complaints and 5 informal complaints about members of council and local boards. I've conducted more than 25 training sessions to local boards. I've carried out significant policy review, which involved consultation and research and analysis to issue interpretation bulletins and to provide reports to council on significant matters such as whether or not the local board code of conduct needs to be revised to consider the new duties of the investment board and the realty board, and councillors' involvement in fundraising. I'd like to tell you for a minute or two a little bit more information about some of the detail on the work of the office. I provide this information because it is important at this time of year that I am able to provide you with sufficient information because I am accountable to council for the work of my office. And I've been working hard during my term to improve the statistics and the measurements that you can gauge, that you can use to gauge on a year-over-year basis for the output of the office. We're keeping pace with the requests for advice. If we look back, we're usually in the same range of requests for advice in any given year. The big change is that more of the requests for advice are coming from the local board sector. And in my opinion, that's a really good news story. Many local boards, as I mentioned, we are all very lucky here in Toronto to have so many volunteer local board members, but they encounter the same issues that councillors do when it comes to conflict of interest and code of conduct matters. I prioritize in my office the response time for giving advice, because if a member of council or a local board can get timely advice, then there will be much less need for investigation. So it's important to me that I can respond to requests for advice. I try my best to do it on the same day the advice is received. Sometimes we tip over that, but more often than not, we're providing advice within 2 days or less to people who request advice from our office. And this, to me, is a really key priority for the office, and I believe that it helps members of council and local board to avoid entering into situations that could give rise to investigations. I can't say the same for the efficiency rate when it comes to dealing with formal complaints. This slide is a snapshot of the complaints that we receive in any given year. There was an aberration in 2015 where we received 34 complaints. One individual filed about 18 complaints about the same issue, so it's out of sync. But one thing that's remarkable to me, if you look back, and I've averaged the 3 years before 2015, we actually get a fairly constant number of formal complaints in Toronto. Again, it has shifted a little bit from, it always is moving around about whether the complaints about members of council or members of local boards. So this is just another way to look at the same information, but it has a little bit more information that's concerning to me on the bottom half of the slide. Frankly, we're taking too long to resolve complaints. The average time it takes my office to resolve and investigate a complaint is 271 days. The shortest amount of time it takes since I've started tracking this, which is January 1st, 2015, is 139 days. The longest time it's taken is 514 days. This is an unacceptable rate at which we're completing complaints. It's a concern that I've expressed to this budget committee in the past. It's the main reason why I'm here asking you for more resources. Another angle on the same information is just to show you the efficiency rate of complaints in and complaints out. It's not the most useful slide because, of course, a complaint received in November, December is not going to be completed if it requires an investigation that year. But I am, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, trying to develop some metrics that you can use on an objective basis to understand the output of the office. And as I know you'll appreciate, I can't provide much more information about the progress of cases on any particular matter. Even if things were not going to change, the numbers that I just presented to you with respect to investigations are not acceptable. And I would still be here asking for new resources to help me and my office meet the needs and to improve the timeliness of investigation completion. But there are significant new duties that are coming to my office. And as you've heard me say before, this is a change that is coming across Ontario. So all municipal councils are now faced with funding resources for these changes. But effective March 2019, my office will have the statutory duty to provide advice to members of council and local boards about the application of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. And this is going to be the one that's going to be the biggest drain on resources to provide, to receive complaints about contraventions of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. So as members of council know, up until now, those complaints would go to court and my office would have no role in relation to those complaints. That's going to fundamentally change. I'll have to complete the investigations within 180 days of receiving the complaint. As I've already demonstrated, that's going to be a tall order based on the current resources. In addition, my office will have jurisdiction under the new legislation to bring complaints to court if after an investigation, I believe that that's an appropriate thing to do. Bringing a matter to court certainly will increase the office's costs. In addition to the new duties, my office is going to need to be able to prepare the city for these changing functions. And again, the smallest stakeholder group, if we're looking at numbers, is the members of council. I'm very concerned about the almost 1,000 members of local boards who are going to be subject to these this new level of scrutiny. And it's important to me that I'm able to make sure that that group has sufficient information about how this impacts them. And of course, it will be my duty to make sure that members of council have the same information. So in my office, we have a very small team. It's me and 2 other people. The main component of our budget is related to salary. We have a very small non-salary budget at present. And the way that those resources are used, just to give you an idea, is usually related to investigation support. So my office engages in a full range of activities associated with complex investigations, such as document and record review, issuing summonses, interviewing multiple witnesses, provision of conduct money, engaging in carrying out corporate searches, land title searches, courthouse searches, open source internet searches, use of external investigation support to help with investigations or interviews. I also am challenged in my jurisdiction from time to time by people subject to complaints, and so I'm required to engage outside legal services to respond. And from time to time, council asks me for advice about things that we don't have in-house expertise about, so I'm required to engage expertise outside of my office to assist and be able to provide that advice to council. All of that to say is that the need for new resources, in my opinion, is acute. The average time to complete cases is too high as it is, and more importantly, in the future, it won't comply with the new law. And my office is unable, frankly, to deal with appropriately with high-volume cases or complex cases. And I want my office to be able to do that. I want the City of Toronto to be able to do that. As all of you know, the City of Toronto has been a role model in this field since the office was created in 2004. And it is my view that without these enhancements, we will fall behind in our position as a role model in Ontario. So I'll be wrapping up in a few minutes, but I'll just give you a bit more information about the particular requests I'm making. So I am seeking an external legal and investigation support budget. So what this is not is a request for a new permanent resource. So I don't have the evidence to come to you today and say that I think I could keep another full-time investigator engaged. I don't know that. And so my best judgment is to recommend to you that you provide my office with a stable budget that I can use on a contingency basis to deploy in a way that makes the most sense based on the cases that come before the office. So whether that means I need someone to help with document review, with interviews, with open source internet research, legal analysis, I'll be able to deploy the resources in a way that responds to the case load that's before me. I have a very small budget right now for legal services, and because of the small size of it, I'm not able to use the budget strategically or properly. With a proper budget, I would be able to engage in the development of a roster. I would be able to implement a strategic procurement policy for the services. And I wish to emphasize it would only be used if the need presented. I have more information about the type of services that I would deploy, but I'll get to the end of my presentation and I'll answer any questions that you may have. The other request I'm making is to establish a temporary training and outreach officer. As you heard me say, the changes that are coming are significant, and many people who are in the service of the City of Toronto are going to need training to understand what it means to them. I do my best with the resources we have, and this year I'm proud to say that I was out to 25 different local boards to provide training. In my opinion, this is a really important function of the office, because if the training is done properly, then there'll be less contraventions and less need for investigation. I also have found that meeting with local boards, sometimes it's a way to help a board facilitate a resolution to problems that they're having that they might not be able to resolve on their own. All of this to say, I'd like to be able to provide education and outreach to the sector in a more strategic manner, and I'd like to develop more modern resources to do it. So online training tools, more interactive training tools. And the reason why I think it should be temporary is because I expect that once we establish a foundation of the training resources, we'll then be able to move to more of a maintenance mode. So to summarize, my request is that Budget Committee recommend to City Council that it approve my total budget request of $866.9 thousand. And this does consist of a significant enhancement request, which are set out there in the second bullet. And I'm here to say that if you are engaging in prioritization, which I recognize you are, the most urgent of the requests is the external legal and investigative support budget. And my final few remarks are that this is the third or fourth time I've made this request. The need is there, and it is a more acute need because of provincial legislation changes. I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Campbell.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for all your work this past year. You said it takes 270 days, 271 days to resolve some of the more complex cases, but isn't part of that just because it's difficult to get information from people? People don't reply in a timely fashion, and it's just, a bit of a challenge putting things together when people are away or they don't respond?
No, absolutely. And thank you for the question, through you, Chair. Thank you. It is true there are many factors that result in the delay, but the other reality is that at any given time I could have 3 to 5 cases open, and I can only be engaged in so many things at one time.
Right.
So if I had additional resources, then the cases could proceed without...
So you have to prioritize then.
Yeah.
So how many of the complaints were against local boards?
For last year...
Because I know you're spending time, you want to do outreach to the local boards, you've done some training for the local boards, and I'm just questioning the validity of all of that.
Through you, Chair, pardon? I didn't hear the...
So the question was, how many of those complaints were against a member of or one of the local boards for actions that they'd taken?
So in 2017, there were 8 complaints about members of local boards.
8 complaints, okay. All right, out of how many local boards?
Oh, there's almost 100 local boards.
Right, okay, so it's a fairly small number. And the rest were against, presumably, city councilors or
That's
something?
true,
Right.
through the chair, yes.
And now you had 16 reports that you wrote. How many of those were on the basis of what had happened at a local board?
I don't have that breakdown right in front of me.
So what would you say, what is the outcome of those reports that have been written?
Through you, Chair, you're asking specifically in the local board sector?
No, just, you've written 16 reports. Those are the most complex cases. Those are a real statement about the validity of the office and the work that you do. What were some of the outcomes of the reports that were written?
Okay, every time there's a public report, it's posted, it's available, and it itself becomes a part of the education toolkit for other members of local boards and members of council to learn how the code of conduct applies to different circumstances. In 2017, we concluded a number of cases, or a few cases, about arena boards, and as a result of that, I prepared an interpretation bulletin that, through the cases, I learned that there was a trend or an issue there that was of concern, and so I didn't expect everybody to read the lengthy reports, so I converted that into an interpretation bulletin for the 8 arena boards that exist in Toronto. And I have had good feedback about the usefulness of that bulletin from many members of boards who were not impacted by the investigations.
So Valerie, I don't doubt that your office is small. It's smaller than that of many councillors. You've said that the one person you need would be in an investigative role. And what kind of work specifically would that person be charged with doing? So
through you, Chair, so I'm not seeking a new position for an investigative function. I'm seeking a budget for external support.
Got that.
Yeah. And so the types of things that I could use that service, that budget for are assisting with document review. So sometimes in investigations, I will obtain thousands of records in electronic form that need to be reviewed. And so this could take me several days or weeks to go through the records. If I had the ability to use an external source, there is software and expertise around that. I also, some investigations require interviewing a number of people. And so I could use the services of an investigative firm to assist me with doing investigations.
I see. Okay. Very good. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the answers.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor, actually, I'll ask my questions first, then we'll go to the outside councillors. Valerie, just with regard to, again, we normally, there's a certain template that I see on all the other divisions and agencies, so this is a little bit different than what I tend to see. So I just wanted to, and I think it's on the last page. So you have about a $530,000 budget, and you are looking at, with new enhancements, bringing it up to about 855. Is that, or 866? Sorry.
Yes, 866. The base budget is this one, right? It's a 511.
Okay.
Current base, yeah. So this slide, I did include the information on slide 16.
Okay. And now, with regard, now you said there are some new legislative duties that will be coming down in 2019. What part of the $355,000 ask is pretty much, even though it's new and enhanced, we'll have to be doing it anyway based on new legislation that'll be coming down? Is that, have you cleared, I haven't seen a clarification of that.
I see both requests as equally important and related to the legislative change, but if there are priorities to be made, then the investigation and legal support component, which is $190,000, is the priority.
So that would be based on, I mean, that would have to happen in 2019 regardless.
Yes, and I recognize it doesn't come into force until March of 2019, but there will be work required in advance of that to prepare the office, and that's what that money would be used for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Davis?
I note you didn't identify this being an election year and any fallout from complaints arising out of the election. Will you be dealing with additional work as a result of an election? What was your experience last year?
I came on board just about a month before the last election. There was a significant backlog at that time, but it wasn't all attributable, I would say, to the election. At that time, the office had only a part-time commissioner, so that would be part of it. There is a blackout period in an election year from August 1st, so that minimizes some of the potential election-related complaints. So I can't answer your question through you, Chair, directly about how will the election impact. What I would like to do, though, is be able to resolve the complaints in a timely manner so that there are no open complaints during the election period.
Okay.
And
but the blackout period does not stop complaints against councillors.
You can't make a complaint from August 1st, but you can make the complaint about those circumstances after the election, correct?
That's not really a blackout period. I guess it's a kind of blackout period. Anyway, what I was trying to understand is also, so you're saying the average number of days for an investigated complaint is 271 calendar days or work days?
That's calendar days.
Calendar days, it's still a significant time. And 53 are 53 days investigating those that you dismissed.
So, yeah, the dismissed without investigation is a complaint that there was no investigation required. It would just be dismissed on the basis of the submission alone.
So it's 80% of your time is spent on formal complaints?
Through you, Chair, I don't know. I don't have that number.
Okay. What I'm trying to understand is there's a level of discretion you exercise as to whether or not to do a formal complaint. And it looks to me like 80% of your time, 80% of the complaints are investigated.
Oh, okay.
Is that just based on hours?
No,
I don't
okay.
know if that's true.
I see what you're asking through you, Chair.
Yes.
I don't have this slide in this information, but it is information I provide in my annual report. No, so if in a year we get 20 complaints on average, and I would say between 4 and 6 of those complaints are investigated. The lion's share are not investigated. They're dismissed.
Okay, so using hours is not,
No.
I can't.
It's, yeah, and
It's not a
so their statistic is really just to show the length of time a complaint takes.
So is there a comparator with other integrity commissioners in terms of how much discretion? You've got discretion. I mean, not discretion, you use obviously your judgment as to which ones you would dismiss and which ones you do a formal and complete investigation on. Are there any benchmarks?
So through you, Chair, I'm not aware of any, but Toronto is the largest, most developed program that exists right now at the municipal level. The Vaughan might come close and Ottawa might come close, but the councils are so much smaller that it doesn't seem to me that it would be properly comparable. I think Toronto's elected and appointed officials base is so much larger that it will always be hard to compare it to another jurisdiction.
And I have one last question. It has to do with the BIAs. The BIAs are now going to be covered by this new conflict of interest legislation, which I think is going to be a challenge because they both offer services in their businesses, and some of them are similar to the services they use, and it's always a challenge to make sure that they're following conflict of interest rules. Are we going to be working with the BIA office, because they have staff as well, to make sure that they are providing very good and solid advice to the BIAs in their decision-making?
So through you, Mr. Budget Chair, absolutely. I have a very one of my most frequent interactions is with the BIA office because of the activity mainly related to training for the BIAs, and I absolutely will be working with that office to develop training, and they are advantaged, in my opinion, compared to many boards in Toronto because of the support provided by the BIA office. But if I could just turn back to the reason why, to underline why the training and outreach coordinator position is important, is because I'd like to be able to do that in a more strategic way. So right now, as you'll know, and other councillors here know, I go myself to meet at these boards, and it's great, but it's not an efficient use of my time or their time.
Right.
If there could be a more strategic, more professional, user-friendly training method available.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Office of the Lobbyist Registrar. Yeah, it's 12 o'clock. We'll see if we can get done these next two presentations, ideally by 12:30. We'll just play it by ear, and then we'll be break for an hour lunch, and we'll be doing Citizen Cluster B in the afternoon. So we're going to try to get through these two, ideally the two presentations in the next half hour. if we can. So I'd ask if we could just get through the deck as quickly as possible, so we can get through the next two, and then we'll be doing Cluster B in the afternoon. So there'll be a presentation on Cluster B, and then there'll be questions of the individual divisions. Welcome and thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Budget Committee. Thank you very much for allowing me to walk you through my presentation and our request for new enhancements. I'd like to thank Grace Young and for all her support in helping to prepare this presentation. I'd also like to thank my staff because they deliver the transparency that's mandated through the bylaw, and they had a great deal of input into this report as well. And I hope that I can help you to understand better about how I believe these enhancements will enable us to continue the good work that we're doing. I'll try to be brief, and I'll try to focus on where I need you to understand what we've done and what we've been successful at, and where we'd like to go in the future with our enhancements. And I guess this is a story about what got us here today may not be what's going to get us to where we want to be in the future. And so part of what I have to do is help you understand some of the challenges that have arisen in how we are delivering and responding to the need for transparency in lobbying oversight. So I know you're aware of our mandate and how we work, so I'm going to skip through that. This slide simply tells you how the breadth of our scope for lobbying oversight crosses over to our public service employees, all the members of council, and our local boards. And when we speak of the number of active lobbyists, which is approximately 1,600, and the number of subject matters that they lobby about, which is about 2,500, you can have an understanding for the robust nature of our program and the importance of, when we speak of transparency, this program enables the public to be able to trust that our public office holders are holding our lobbyists accountable for disclosing and being ethical in their operations.
Can I just interrupt? There's a lot of chatter in the room, especially on the right side here, so can I ask everybody to hold the conversations down so we can hear? Thank you.
So our mandate is entrenched in statute, and it's supporting the values that you've underscored in your strategic plan, namely open government by design, engaging the public, strengthening our public service governance, and improving customer service. And it's my goal to help you understand how the enhancements that I'm requesting are really to underscore that. So in order for any regulator really to be effective, there's three important functions that they have to be able to do well in order to succeed with the regulatory model. First is running a registry, which I do, and that ensures compliance through disclosure. The next part is education and outreach, which ensures compliance from the stakeholder group. The third is inquiries and investigations, which delivers compliance through accountability. In other words, what is the city prepared to do when compliance doesn't happen? Now, the enhancement requests that are before you are for more support for an outreach and education position, and support for investigation functions. So namely, I'm requesting one full-time education and outreach position, and in terms of the statutory and investigation legal requirements, I'm asking for support through a junior counsel position and external and legal investigation costs of $250,000. So at this current time, our office is operating without a dedicated staff resource allocated to outreach and education. There has been year after year increases to registry activity, but the staff complement has not changed since 2009. So registration transactions processed annually have increased by 432%, from 2,443 in 2010 to 12,990 in 2017. So without having changed our staff complement, our office is now dealing with processing almost more than 12,000 transactions a year, and the number of registered lobbyists has also increased to around 1,700.
The current challenges to service level also are by the fact that with better education, with better compliance, as people learn how to comply, and you get more subject matters registered, so success begets more success. And the increase in registry activity volume is putting the delivery of timely and accurate services at risk. At the current time, we have a state of good repair project that we're anticipating that will be completed in the beginning of January. Our staff services have been dedicated to working with Clerks IT to deliver that new upgrade. When the Good Repair project is up and running with our new technology platform, our staff will have to continue to maintain and manage that platform in order to continue providing service to the public, and that will involve training, answering questions about how to use it, and of course promoting the new system. So as I say, on a go-forward basis, we're going to have to continue to deploy resource time to ensuring that the technological platform that supports the registry is working properly and can continue to grow with trends. The intended outcome of increased transparency and ease of use from the State of Good Repair project is expected to increase the volume of activity. As I say, success begets more success. If the system is easier to use, you will have more people using it. And that is actually the ultimate outcome that you do want. So if you can see from this grid, if you compare where we were at the beginning of this program, you have a good news story. You see an exponential increase over the years in the use of the lobbying registry system as a disclosure tool, with the number of lobbyist registrations being processed on the rise. Subject matter registrations are up, and active registrations are up as well, consistently year over year. The outreach activity that we've done over the years has increased the public's awareness. You can see our website visits are up and our searches are up. With respect to the support that I've asked for statutory investigation and our legal requirements, under-resourcing has resulted in delays in the length of the investigation processes and restrictions on our capacity to take on new matters. Increases in the number of outreach initiatives undertaken by this unit are putting further strain on already limited resources. While the number of formal inquiries has decreased due to the success of early resolution initiatives, the complexity of the matters has increased. So the fact scenarios and evidentiary issues require the assistance of outside legal counsel and forensic auditors to complete. Monies for possible litigation related to inquiries must be readily available. And I note, I'm not sure if you're aware of a recent media report that the Federal Office of Lobbying, the Lobbying Commissioner, has requested $400,000 to assist with the cost of an open challenge in court. This is a real risk for our regulatory offices, and I'm just pointing this out to you because our office has not undergone such a challenge as of yet, but we are increasingly becoming a litigious society, and our office needs to be prepared, particularly with the new amendments through CODA and the new powers that you gave in 2016 to our office to impose bans. So I just, part of this request is forecasting, because we want to continue to be effective. External legal advice will be required above and beyond internal resources, including the requested junior counsel position. Because of the contentious nature of the inquiries and the possibility of judicial review, due diligence must be taken. As I've said, the recent legislative changes that have been adopted through Bill 68 will just briefly remind you, there's been an increase to the limitation period from 6 months to 2 years, and also that we've been granted by the province the ability to impose administrative sanctions and penalties. And back in 2016, as I say, you did broaden my enforcement powers to include temporary bans. So how will this impact the investigative unit? Well, we're anticipating an increase in volume of investigations, possible legal challenges, and the implementation of the new enforcements is going to require us to support that. For example, we're going to be working with our staff partners in the city to develop the policy, develop the framework. Although the administrative penalties are not are citywide, yes, there will be our prosecution team that will be developing the structure, but our office is going to have to contribute what we feel would be appropriate penalties and the monetary scheme that would reflect what we would want to enforce disclosure and ethics in our office. So I want to share with you some of the things that the current staff has been asked to do in this particular year, so that you can understand how important education and outreach is to making this model work. We've hosted in this year 14 training sessions attended by 245 members of the public and lobbyists. We've given 21 presentations to city staff for 388 city employees. We've given 6 presentations to external organizations to about 100 or so attendees. We've posted 2,315 communications on social media regarding best practices and lobbying bylaw compliance. We've provided outreach at a social procurement networking event reaching approximately 80 to 100 different vendors, which I believe will help further compliance. We've held 108 meetings with city public office holders, and I've held 11 meetings with public office holders and other levels of government. And I think that that's important to note because we're the largest regulator of lobbying activity as far as municipal governments go in Canada, but we're also a leader across other governments in the country. The size and scope of the way we regulate lobbying is larger than some of the provinces. Really, we're on par with the federal government and the province of Ontario in terms of being leaders and how this should be done. And our office is consulted often for advice and to share our successes and our best practices. I wanted to show you this quickly so that you could see, comparing last year to this point, to this year to this point, everything's growing in terms of lobbying activity. I do believe that this is a trend that's going to continue, and our office wants to be there ready to provide effective services so that we can. You'll see that this year alone, our total registration transactions process is up 20%. So the trend that you saw from 2010, I don't have any reason to believe that that's going to change in the future. I only have reason to believe that we'll continue to grow, which is a good thing. That's the transparency that you're asking us to deliver under the bylaw. So I want to pause for a moment on the investment, the assessment and inquiries slide for a moment, because I know you're going to ask me why it is that the numbers are going down in terms of the number of inquiries. So in a nutshell, inquiries appear to be down because preventative initiatives by the Inquiries and Investigations Unit are up and are resulting in compliance without the resort to formal inquiries. So again, if you think back to the slides I've shown you, the registrations are going up, and it makes sense that the number of inquiries are going down because you're getting compliance at the front end. So the function of the Inquiries and Investigations Unit has evolved from its inception. The first few years, the unit was by necessity reactive, and you can see that if you look at 2011, 2012, and years like 2014. But what we've found with a new process we've developed in response to that, using preliminary assessments, for example, to resolve things quickly, you're now getting less complaints being the subject of formal inquiries because we have a precedent body now, which we didn't have at the beginning of our program. So in other words, the lobbyists can turn to our robust precedent list and learn how they have to comply, and that's why you're seeing the trend appear to be going down. But in fact, this is a good news story because it means you're getting more compliance. Now, you might ask me, why is it that you're asking for funds for investigations and inquiries if you're seeing the trend go down? And my answer to that is, there's an increased complexity to the issues that are being investigated. The availability of evidence, specifically electronic communications held by the city, are provided by third-party email providers, and the availability of witnesses, the need for specialized experts or outside legal advice, the number of firms or lobbyists involved on any given file is numerous, the increased number of lobbyists that retain legal counsel to represent them during an investigation process. Remember, the people that I regulate are third parties to the city, so it's very difficult for us to get immediate compliance. They often retain counsel, which is very helpful to the process, but it does delay the process a bit. The number of potential contraventions of the lobbying bylaw to be investigated, the sheer volume of documents and data to be examined and analyzed, and the increasingly complex and nuanced issues brought to us by lobbyists through our advanced opinion process take a significant amount of time to answer, which consequently divides the attention of the investigation staff. So essentially, because I don't have a full-time resource person doing education and outreach, I've got 2 units, 1 registry, 1 investigative. The registry is being split in terms of helping to provide outreach and cope with launching a new platform and dealing with increased activity. And the other unit is being split in several directions as well, because they're supporting the education and outreach, plus they've moved into these new initiatives where they're doing front-end advice, and there is a risk that we won't be able to juggle all the balls in the air and keep them going. So in the interest of being brief, I'm ready to wrap it up and take questions because I appreciate that we want to give my colleague Susan Opler an opportunity to give her presentation. Oh, okay. So just questions, yes.
Okay, sorry, we were trying to get done by 12:30, so yeah. So.
Well, I'm not, but I was willing to cut it short if you would. Anyways, I've simply shown you an org chart when I talk about the 2 units. What you see in blue is what we have. What you see in green is what I'm asking for. So in terms of the positions, I'm asking for 2 more so that we can have 1 more person in green as an education and outreach position, and what you see in green on the other side is a junior counsel position. So I just want to highlight respectfully what I see could possibly hinder our program if we don't get more support. So the registry unit's ability to deliver timely, accurate, and efficient service, the investigations inquiries unit's ability to keep pace with complicated investigations, the decrease in compliance with the disclosure requirements is a risk because when you don't have the registry activity happening because people don't understand, then you're going to end up having a snowball effect on the other side with more investigations and complaints. So number 4 is the public may lose confidence in the OLR's ability to provide service. There could be a negative impact on your own important goals in your strategic plan towards open government and citizen engagement. And the OLR can't guarantee that the objectives of better enforcement and higher compliance that underline the new legislative changes will be met. So we really do believe that without a bit more support, there's a risk to our mandate. In terms of the numbers, and I have to confess, when I went to law school, I left my math brain somewhere else, so I like to have Grace beside me because it seems like I'm reading in a different language when I look at numbers, particularly when they're in a chart. But gross, the new enhanced is 444,000. And the new approved positions is 2. The total budget request is $1,644,000. This is a budget change of 42.5%. The key cost drivers our salaries and benefits. This last slide just summarizes what I just said, and you've got a pie chart to show you that it's really the salaries are the main cost drivers. So I alluded to the State of Good Repair project. Everything is on time and on budget with respect to the State of Good Repair project. Its cost was in and around $660 million, which, sorry, 660,000. Wow, I was competing with the TTC there for a minute. No, $660,000. So it's important to enable the registry to continue to function, to comply with statutory obligations, and to meet the requirements of users. And to conform to the city and industry technological standards. I have to say that right now, without the State of Good Repair project, my staff is challenged, and we're getting a lot of complaints because the technological platform that we have at the moment is so old that people have to drive in from other cities to use the computer in my office because they actually don't have a computer old enough to communicate with our registry system. But I'm confident that in January, with the new system in place, we'll be able to service, we'll be able to deliver good service in that it will be compliant with mobile devices and tablets. So I think it's going to be able to meet all of the desired outcomes. And it's $0.7 million in the capital budget in the capital plan for 2018 to 2023. And so there's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, just a bit of housekeeping. We have about 10 minutes left. I was hoping to get through all the accountability offices. We have an option to extend, to finish. I don't know whether or not that would be, I don't know timing-wise how that will be, or we'll have to just come back at 1:30. And we haven't asked quite. We're not going to get into the last one before 12:30. Do we have, again, and I don't know, again, the challenge I think we have to the accountability offices in general is we do send out, our finance staff send out a template to sort of follow that gives us the ability to, to be very concise. And when we don't see you coming with those templates, it makes it a bit challenging for us because we're used to a certain format coming in. And that's why we're not seeing the format playing out here, and it's a bit of a challenge for us on a timing-wise. So I would recommend or suggest in future to consider following the templates that we provide, because they are actually there for a reason. It's to assist, it's to assist you, to assist us to understand your ask at the end. So I'll leave it up to, do we want to, we'll probably just break at 12:30? Okay, so do you have any questions for the next? Okay, why don't we go to Councillor Campbell?
So that's a very hefty budget request in a year when the mayor asked, and we've asked all of our city divisions to come in at 0%. Why do I care about training and outreach from your department?
Okay, well, let me explain it this way. If you look at registry, outreach and education, and then investigations and compliance, the education and outreach is the hamburger meat. It's the meat in the hamburger. When you don't have robust education and outreach, you don't have people aware that the legislation exists, so you don't have people going to register. You also don't have members of the public or stakeholders who would call our office to complain about a matter to investigate. So when you're weak at education and outreach, you're going to have fewer registrations, which ultimately would suggest that you have less compliance, and you're not servicing the public with the transparency. The registry tool is the transparency. It's the tool that's the window of the dialogue between lobbyists and.
You've gone you have gone at great lengths to point out how your registrations are up.
Yes.
And we've seen a consistently rising number of registrations. Mm-hmm. So why on earth would we want to encourage more registrations by spending the money on outreach? What I'm saying to you, in my view, is it doesn't seem at all necessary, because we have, I presume, have we done outreach before?
No, we have, but typically, let's just take it point by point. Typically, without a designated person who is engaging in communications, it has to be something that our staff has to be pulled off other items in order to do. For example,
Okay.
we only were ever able to provide training to 30 people a year through our training sessions. This year, we've repurposed staff in that we've taken 2 people off of the registry. We've kept 2 people on the registry and put 1 person purely on communications and outreach. And so we've been able to train over 235 people in person, giving 14 training sessions.
So who are you training? You're training lobbyists?
The members of the public and lobbyists who would be using the system.
And what investigations do you do? What's an investigation? Investigating in, what are you investigating?
We investigate complaints about either an ethical issue or a situation of non-registration, in other words, non-compliance. So of the 27 reports that we've done, about 19 of them have been about ethical violations, and about 6 or 7 have been about non-registration.
So that's where somebody's doing lobbying, but they haven't registered, just basically.
That's non-registration, and then the ethical issues could range from breach of confidentiality, undue influence. It's a broad range, but remember that underscores transparency, because in our jurisdiction here, we're saying that communications with a public office holder have to be disclosed, but they also have to be ethical. Other jurisdictions don't go that far. They might just require registrations. But in this city, you've codified that when a person is providing information to you as a lobbyist, not only do they have to register it, but they have to deal with you as an ethical professional.
Okay, so is that not occurring? That's occurring now?
Well, you can see from the chart that I showed you, it's getting better. And what I want to tell you is that in my best advice, it's because we have been so aggressive at doing the investigations and forwarding the education about how to comply.
I want to ask about, you've got external legal costs.
Yes.
$250,000 or $125,000. What were your external legal costs in 2017?
Because we don't have a large budget for doing that, have been very cautious about hiring anyone. So the reason I want to explain this to you carefully.
Can I just get a direct, because we're running out of time.
I don't have the figure in front of me.
But you've asked for $125,000 for next year.
Yes. Yes,
You don't know
I
what
have.
you did, but you don't know what you spent in 2017?
It's nowhere near that.
Okay.
And the reason for that is I do have legal counsel in the office, and I do have an investigator who is a lawyer in our office. However, where we've been not taking the leap is because legal external costs can be exponential overnight.
Right.
And so we've been extremely cautious and conservative, trying to exhaust every possible way of resolving something and narrowing the legal issues with the staff we have. However, going forward, we're noticing that the nature and complexity of the issues we're dealing with is intensifying, and we're may no longer be able to do that. Even though council gives me the $125,000, I'm not going to commit to spending it, but I am advising you that I may be thrust into a situation where I may have no choice. The federal lobbying commissioner was taken to court this fall on a challenge to her authority to investigate on a file, and it ended up costing $400,000, and they're not done yet. And I only raise it because I just want to show you how expensive legal costs are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Recess till 1:30.